Young Jamie. Oh, Philip DeFranco. All right, buddy.
I'm good, man.
It's cracking.
I'm good. All the conversation we had right before, it's gonna be the good stuff, and then all of this is gonna be 2 hours of bad.
Yeah, we shit on some movies and got mad about Republicans and talking, and then we got mad about Democrats. And
You're putting a we in an I statement.
Yep. I'm lumping you in.
I was just being your therapist, man.
Oh, thanks, dude. Sweet. So sweet of you.
Isn't that what a podcast is?
Yes.
You're just like, let me hear what you're saying, but then let me talk about the world.
In a way, yeah. Is that a phone? That's a tiny little one.
It's a tiny one, man.
Oh, you got the little tiny iPhone?
Yeah, this is for my daily example of why I need to be patient. I had an iPhone 6 Plus, the biggest storage. I was really happy with it, and then I was like, man, I need to get that iPhone 7. And the only one they had was the small one with the smallest storage, and it's a piece of garbage.
You don't like it?
No, well, just because I'm like, I don't need that much storage. I'll use the cloud, but I don't because I don't trust the cloud.
Ooh, so scared of all those dick pics getting out.
All the dick pics.
Yeah, just gigs of them.
I think that's the good thing about not being extraordinary in any way. I'm not doing that.
You don't have to worry about your dirt.
Yeah, I'm just like, no one needs to see it.
So you just ran out of, what is it, like a 32 gigabyte or something like that?
So it's like I'm like, which memory will I delete before I can make new ones?
Oh, that's annoying.
It makes me be a little bit selective, but I don't know. In this day and age, it's stupid.
Does it bother you that it's small?
Not as much, but you get used to it, right?
Yeah, you get used to that big
What do you
one.
have? Yeah.
I have the 7 Plus.
Yeah, man.
You used to that when you're looking at websites in particular where you don't have to expand the screen to get the entire thing. You don't have to go back and forth to get the entire article.
And there's little tricks that people don't know where it's like you double tap, not push in, but double tap, and like all that shit that's on the top of the screen, it comes down for you. Mm-hmm. They just use it for people with tiny hands.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you double tap the home button, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's stuff they made for people that just don't fit like the standard, and you just use them, and then fucking BuzzFeed calls it life hacks, and they're like 10 things you didn't know. Let's get 7 million views off of some basic shit.
There was that one phone that they had, I guess it was the iPhone 4, that had the sharper edges on the side, and it was very narrow. That's the perfect size phone for texting.
You think so?
Yeah, it just fits in your hand perfect. Like it locks in place. Like I can text with one hand with this thing, but not that easy. It's a little slippery.
You just gotta switch to get like that swipey keyboard.
Oh no!
No. Why?
I've seen people do that. Brian Callen did that.
It makes you angry?
No, it doesn't make me angry. But he was my friend Brian Callen was trying to show me how good it was. Like, look, all right. I just go from here to here, and he fucked it up a few times. I'm like, that thing can go fuck off.
Just from this 5 minutes of before and after, it's like I hate swipey keyboards and movies where kids have cancer. 2 things I won't stand for.
They're pulling on your heartstrings. If they show you cancer and a kid has cancer, like right away, like, look, you could have made me sad in a less brutal way.
So are you okay if in the trailer they let you know the kid has cancer?
That's fucking stupid. I see what they're doing. It's like, get out of here. And we're talking about Arrival. I didn't even watch the movie. I watched the movie for 3 minutes. The girl had cancer, and I'm like, fuck you. And I hung it up. I'm going to sleep. I'm not going to watch this.
You're like, I don't want to go on this depressing journey right before bed. It's going to give me fucked up dreams.
So uninterested in depressing movies. I know. I read the news. I watch television. I pay attention to internet videos from all over the world of depressing shit. I know it's real.
Yeah, I think the moment I had my first kid, I was like, okay, this is my realization that at any point I could have the most damaging pain in the world. So I get that I don't need to be depressed and reminded of that at every moment, because that's what I'm constantly thinking about. When I'm not having a happy moment, I'm like, how could the world completely fuck up my whole being?
Yeah, I'm more interested in funny things these days, or really stupid horror movies.
Is that just escapism from like the 100%. Fucking insanity that we're dealing with?
Yeah, that's all it is. It's all escapism. I mean, even Game of Thrones, or like House of Cards, which is like about politics itself. Mm-hmm. Total escapism. These are not real people.
Yeah, but that's what I end up finding is I end up rooting for people I normally wouldn't root for, right? So in House of Cards, I'm totally rooting for him. In Breaking Bad, even in the final season, when he's doing all that fucked up stuff, I'm like, yeah, Walter White, I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I didn't watch the final season. I didn't get that far. But I'm in the middle of I'm like season 3 right now of House of Cards.
Okay.
And yeah, Kevin Spacey's a goddamn murderer.
I'm trying to remember if the third season's kind of like the like meh season before, because the last season was amazing.
What is it like? How they have 5 out? 4?
Is
they
it
have
4? Yeah. So 3 I think was kind of, it just felt like a setup season, and then
I'm
4
burning
was,
through them, man. I'm fucking cooking through them.
Yeah,
Watching 4 or 5 a week.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't started that, like episode 1 of season 2. That's where I was like, okay, I'm in.
Right.
This is because I feel like you always have to have that one episode where you don't know what's gonna happen, where you're like, oh, okay, I'm on fucking shaky ground. This isn't something that I'm gonna watch while I'm cooking dinner and not really paying attention and not miss anything out. Right? That's like Scandal. You're like, okay, they're gonna go on some like fucking 8-minute monologue where it's like, you can't do blah 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 blah, and then you're just like, what happened? Oh, okay, yeah, whatever bullshit.
Well, escapism is, I mean, it's fun. But after a while, I think it runs its course. I think just absorbing media, just taking in too much. After a while, you just get extremely jaded. Like I've seen people that are tweeting about things online, and you go, God, that guy's fucking jaded, man. Like people are so jaded, and then you realize like the amount of information, the amount of data that people are getting on a daily basis. You're not designed for this.
Yeah,
no one's designed to have unlimited options for entertainment viewing at your disposal, on demand, all the time.
If you ever want to, like, a quick reminder of how ADD and how true that is, just look at your fucking, like, not you specifically, but your own Twitter history. I'll go from talking about something, like, deeply political, and I'm like, this fucking craziness, to, like, did you see tonight's episode? And there's, like, a difference of 5 minutes.
Right,
like,
exactly.
And it's because everything's always happening.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. I'm critical of it, but I'm part of it,
Well, we're definitely changing, and our attention span is changing, and probably not for the better. And we're like accustomed to things being quick and rapid. Like here's a perfect example.
Okay.
The way you guys edit your videos. You don't have any pauses. You're not human in your video.
That is because I got like a C- in public speaking.
But everybody does it. Everybody on YouTube does it. They all do that thing where they take out all the ums and pauses and they go from one thing to the other.
Well, because it is a battle of attention and battle of eyes.
Yeah.
But I think people are seeing more and more, especially even the YouTube algorithm, podcasts. I think that there is 100% always going to be an audience for longer form things. My videos started out as, it was even in the little intro sequence, it started out as 3 to 4 minutes. Let me talk about the world for 3 or 4 minutes. My videos now are 10 to 18 minutes every day. Granted, a lot more is happening every day under like this new presidency and stuff like that. But there is an audience that wants more. And so you had the Vine guys, but Vine's dead now, but those guys have now launched into longer form pieces where some of it is 3 to 4, and then some are daily 10 to 18 minute pieces. So I think there's always going to be an audience. People are tuning in longer, more than ever, because the internet was tuned in for 6 seconds, 15 seconds, 1 minute, 3 to 4, and it's just getting longer and longer.
But it's not even just the longer. Even if you do a 3-minute thing, you're still going to edit out all those little tiny gaps in between sentences.
Yeah,
what's that about?
It's just getting out as much info. If I stopped cutting out my pauses, my videos would be 5 minutes longer. it'd be a nightmare.
Really?
Yeah, because my videos, I don't script. I'm not reading from everyone else or from something someone else wrote. I do all my own research. It's me taking all the information and then just going on this word soup rambly thing for 5 minutes to make a 3-minute piece.
Do you feel like you take in too much data because you're doing all this?
You have to.
I have to.
You have to. The main difference between, I think, the last time I came on here, which was about 2 years ago, and now is back then I was kind of scared to share my opinion, right? So I was just kind of repetition of Reddit stories that popped up and things that popped up on websites of like, this thing happened. Anyway, here's the next thing that happened.
So you're more of an aggregator of things that have happened.
I feel like I was then, and now it's more of, because no one trusts anything, right? Where we talk about right-wing or left-wing people being in their own bubbles, and, we going like, I know the truth, but you might not, because you're just sticking to the stuff that you believe in, and then you see something from an outside source and you go, well, that's bullshit.
That's on BuzzFeed.
Right. Well, and and that's the problem. I mean, BuzzFeed really, in my opinion, fucked themselves with the way that they released those documents that couldn't be completely confirmed. Right, with the whole like Trump and the prostitutes peeing on the bed stuff, and they're like, we can't confirm it. And neither can any of the other places that have gotten this information. Can't confirm it, but there is this piece of paper that says that it may have happened.
Well, what's even worse is all these mainstream news sources were doing it. They
Yeah.
were all releasing this story, the salacious details on the story of Donald Trump and the Russian prostitutes. Water sports. Like, get the fuck out of here. Just the way it read, I immediately called bullshit. I'm like, do you really think that he has people pee on him?
Well,
do you
no,
really
so
think
that's-
people pee on the bed and he wants them to pee on the bed and he watches? Like, fuck off.
So that's the problem, right? Is that's not even the actual thing that the story was, but that's what it turned into. The whole story ended up being, or like was supposed to be, that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama stayed in a hotel room.
Right.
Right. He hated them so much
that he hired hookers to come and pee on the bed.
not on him. Right.
On
so
the
then,
bed.
but then everyone made it like, oh, he likes pee on his face. And it was like, what? And it became this example of, as long as it's hilarious enough, I forget who said it, as long as it's hilarious enough, people will just roll with it.
But it's so hack. It's not even hilarious. It's like, that's like what a hack premise
Yes.
writer would write. Like if you want to write a hack story, a hack scene in a movie about a crazy person, he hires all these hookers. Yeah, baby, come on, pee on daddy. You know, it's like, it's so
But
stupid.
I feel like if you heard that though, and you were like, oh, it's like a coke-fueled businessman from the '80s, you'd be like, yeah, that probably happened.
Right.
But not in today's world.
Well, not only that, you don't think Donald Trump would check his hotel room for cameras?
Oh,
Like,
right.
really?
Right.
Do you don't think that a multi-billionaire who's kind of a freak would go into that thing and have someone scrub the room and
Right.
have some expert?
Yeah, man.
He's probably super paranoid. He's fucked over so many people.
Maybe
Do you know-
that's why we don't see the tax returns. He's paying all these people off.
Exactly. The tax return thing is really
Does that
bizarre.
bother you still?
Yes.
I know that it
should.
bothers a lot of people.
Well, it should.
I think, you know what? I think it's easy to argue that, you know, well, people aren't going to be able to understand it, but I think it
What?
is also so where people are going to go, well, it's going to be misconstrued, but it's an honest
Have
question.
you heard that argument?
Yes.
That it's
is-
going to be taxes are going to be misconstrued?
Yeah, they're gonna take the smallest things and they're gonna on TV, and I mean the media does it at times, and they're gonna expand on it and make it this crazy thing. The same example with the urination story. All of a sudden, I looked at Facebook, all my
Yeah,
left
but
leaning
that's not a
friends.
real story.
Right, but it started out as a core thing.
Right, but
he
wait-
pays for this, and then it turned into Donald Trump likes getting peed on.
I understand what you're saying, but the problem is that taxes are an actual real thing.
100%.
The tax return is very clear and concise.
Right.
I mean,
So they're going to
there's-
say, well, look at this money. It could have been all these things. And then it's not, it could be, it is. Right? That's an argument. It's not one that I agree with, but, and I would prefer to actually see, because I am a big fan of, like, get as much information out as possible so that we can actually break shit down.
Well, every single president has done it before
Right.
him. That's what's so unprecedented about it. And he has multiple business ties, apparently, with Russia.
Right.
And he owes a shitload of money to China. Like, those things are massive factors. And
Yeah.
he has these business ventures that he has in all these countries all over the world. What's really crazy is his sons are running his business now.
Right.
So his sons are getting flown around with Secret Service details, all on the country's dime. He's spending more money on travel in 7 months than Obama did in 8 years. That's the projection. If things go
Really?
according, yes,
Okay, I have to look at the numbers.
yeah. See
But
if
yeah.
you can find it, Jamie.
Because for me, that's like,
That was New York Times. I'm pretty sure.
Because that's the whole premise of my show now is you're making that argument of why we should. I then on my show mention that argument. I then go into the argument of how it could be misconstrued, and then I separately give my opinion, which I personally believe that we should get the tax.
But it's
returns.
not even an opinion thing. It's law. He's supposed to release his tax returns. That's what you're supposed to do.
But don't you remember? There's the whole audit.
That audit, which will go on to the end of time, none of it makes any sense. I mean, how long does the audit last? I mean, who's auditing it?
Right, and I mean, and the hard thing is the story. There's like 8 stories every day. I feel like because I haven't seen Kellyanne Conway on TV as much lately, it's less of the case. And there was even it felt like 2 days where Donald Trump didn't tweet, which was unprecedented. But it's overloading.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that'll ask me, why didn't you cover a certain story? And it's just I am one guy making like at that time a 16-minute show that I'm trying to explain things properly. So how am I going to how am I going to get across all the points?
Yeah, look at this in Forbes. Trump's family his trips cost taxpayers nearly as much in a month as Obama's cost in a whole year. Yeah, it's the whole thing is very bizarre. And what's really crazy is he was very critical of Obama, President Barack Obama's vacation is costing taxpayers millions of dollars. Unbelievable. What about you?
Hey, man, but he's going to be. You have to think about the net. You're going to save all that money from all the fewer regulations, right? Something.
Dude, we're not saving any money from fewer regulations. We're going to have to clean all those ducks that get covered in oil. The whole thing's so fucked.
But
it's
it's
fucked.
It's hard. I mean, but even like you're throwing out your opinions now, and I think that it's important to have those people. But I think it's also then important to take the time to look into where the Fox News, the Breitbarts, the Donald, all those places where they're coming from as far as where their opinions come from. Because I don't think...
also Salon.com,
Right.
Huffington Post. I mean, we've got two echo chambers on
Right.
the left and on the right. And
Right.
it's the sound of the both of them is deafening to the point where you can't make out what the fuck is going on.
Right. And I think that's why it's important to look at both so you can kind of fucking like shimmy it through a filter and see where these sources are coming from.
I'm looking for gold.
Looking for gold, man. Looking for the fucking truth, because who knows what the fuck it is?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist for people, right? It's like
very
reality. I mean, it's been a conversation of like reality doesn't matter, right? It's all about perception. That is more true than ever today, right? Because people believe, people believe in their right or left wing thing, like they believe in God, right? It's not just a fact to them. It's not just opinion. It is ingrained belief.
Yeah.
And it's just me trying not to close the door on anyone so that I can always try and have someone's ear. Right. So people can think that.
What do you mean by that?
So depending on the video, right? So yesterday I talked about.
You mean you personally? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes. So yesterday I talked about the police officer or the off-duty cop in Anaheim.
Oh, I saw that. That was crazy.
It's crazy. And my whole thing was.
Explain it for people that don't know what we're talking about.
Okay. So it's. There's some stuff that we don't see. There's two arguments. There's one that the off-duty cop, we'll go through his story first. He said that these kids were walking on his property, walking through his property. Maybe they were cutting through. He said something to the girl. The boy says that you called her a cunt, and I said that's not appropriate. And he says the child didn't say that. He said that he was going to shoot the off-duty cop. He said, I'm going to shoot you. The boy says, no, I said I'm going to sue you. But the cop says he's going to detain the kid until the police arrive because you threatened an off-duty police officer, right? That then turns into this kid. He like pushes the police officer.
Another kid, a different kid.
Well, so
the police
that
officer.
happens at first. The kid that's being detained pushes the police, the off-duty cop, into a bush.
Right.
Then 2 minutes pass. They slowly get closer to this hedge. Another kid puts hands on the off-duty cop. Another kid then shoulder checks the cop over the hedge. Then the kid who originally that touched him, God, it'd be so much easier to have the video. Then one of the other kids who had put hands on him punched the cop. Another kid jumped over the hedge, and they kind of surrounded him. And at that point, the cop pulled out a gun, and everyone kind of ran away. And then it looks like the cop's trying to pull the kid over the hedge while holding the gun.
Right.
It goes off, and then 2 kids are arrested. He's not. Right. And it's a crazy video. And so with talking about a story like that becomes a little different than just talking about politics, because it's seeing something, not knowing fully how it started. Right. So you're having to take the word of 2 people without having the evidence and trying to get across the point. My main points in the video, I don't like that the cop didn't seem to de-escalate the situation, didn't continually announce that he was a police officer, didn't announce that he was...
Did he announce it at all?
So there's this point in the video where a kid, I believe, says, I don't believe you're a cop, or how do I know you're a cop, or something like that. There's 2 different videos. So it seems like maybe he announced it, but if I was him, right, this is hindsight, of course, I'd be constantly announcing that I am an off-duty police officer and I'm detaining this kid until the police show up, rather than potentially just some stranger grabbing a child. And also, I don't agree, or if I was in his position and all of a sudden I started being attacked, I would 100% have pulled the gun out, but I wouldn't have fired it because they were already running away. And I think that
but
it was
they're only attacking him because of the way he was handling the situation.
Totally. And that's a hard thing of, I have my personal opinion in these segmented areas. I think he could have done way more to de-escalate the situation. I think that when he pulled out the gun, he had a choice to either like fix his hands so that he didn't accidentally shoot a gun around children.
Well, not only that, why does he have a round chambered?
Right. Why is the safety not on?
Exactly.
And those are important questions, right? So you have to, especially someone that has a concealed weapon, someone that's an off-duty cop, you have to hold them to a higher standard. My argument there, though, is if I was in that same position, I would have 100%, as I was being attacked, especially if I have a weapon on me that all of a sudden I'm going to get worried that maybe it could be used against me as these kids are already attacking me, I would pull it out. But then he takes it to a different level.
Well, even the way he pulled it out slow and sloppy.
Right.
Like if I saw someone reaching under their shirt like that for a gun, if I was a crazy person, I would totally attack them.
Tackle them, try and get it, yeah.
100%. If they don't get a hold of that gun, then they're not armed. As soon as they get a hold of that gun, they're armed.
Right.
I mean, if he's doing all this jazz and reaching in and it's taking so much time, that's all time you can punch him in the face. Like, he's not going to stop you from punching in the face.
Right.
He's reaching in, grabbing his gun slow and sloppy.
Right.
It took a long time because he was doing it with one hand, lifting up his
While he
shirt,
was holding
trying
the
to
other
get the
guy.
gun.
Yeah.
I think he was posturing in a lot of ways, too, like letting know, oh, yeah? Look at this. There's the gun. Now what?
Yeah, but the press conference afterwards, it feels very much like they're getting their ducks in a row before they really come down on him. Yeah.
Of course, but a cop is just a person. And
Totally.
there's going to be great cops and there's going to be morons. And there's going to be people that just didn't realize the situation was going to get to where it got to, and they just didn't handle all the steps along the way, and that's probably what happened with him. He probably thought he was going to say, hey, stop coming through my lawn and making noise, you little fucks. You know? And the kid's like, fuck you, I'll shoot you. And he's like, oh, really? Motherfucker, I'm a cop. Like, we don't even believe you. You don't believe me. God damn it.
Look at this.
Well, this is my fucking...
But so, like, talking about that story, it's trying to take in both sides of the argument, and then me
Right.
separately giving my opinion. And I did an event last night, and a kid said, you know, what do you say to people that disagree with you there, especially from like the Latino community, right? Where like how a cop is going to treat me is going to be different than how they treat us. And I said, I think it's 100% fine for you to have a disagreement. Tell me, talk to me. Don't look at my opinion and go, this dude's a fucking asshole. I hate this fucking guy. Michael Che talks about in his special where he went through like a weird thing too. Try and educate me. Give me your point of view. And that's why it's okay for people to go like, he tried to give both sides. He gave his opinion.
Who is he, though? Who are you saying? He?
Just people.
Okay.
People that watch my show.
Okay.
Right? Because I have far left, far right people that watch. They don't always agree, but they know that I'm always going into it with the best of intentions, and I'm not going to hide facts, and I'm not going to hide my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important.
Yeah, well, when you're seeing a video like that, you're not seeing what had to transpire before it got to the
Right.
point where he's holding on to that kid.
Right.
So who knows who was a dick? He didn't handle it well, and you don't expect the kids to handle it well because they're fucking kids. No kid handles anything well. What? Name me a 10-year-old kid who deals with things well. You know, I mean, they're trying things out. They're experimenting.
Yeah.
They really don't know how to communicate properly yet.
I think the number one thing people in their 20s say is, oh, I was such a stupid kid. And then you go to the 30s and when I was 20, I was such a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And it just constantly...
going.
You hope that you're growing.
Yeah, when
and
you're
not.
90, you're like, when I was 80, I was retarded.
It's like, Grandpa, no.
I'm telling you.
Didn't you see that Salon.com
No.
article? You can't say that.
You can definitely still say it.
I remember we talked about that last time.
Fuck off.
I didn't try and take back that word. I just want to be able to say, kill yourself. Just
You could definitely say that.
yeah. And
You can
because
say
people say,
everything.
but what about mental health? And I'm like, I'm not talking about it in that avenue. I'm just saying that guy that cut me off, he should kill himself.
Dick Cheney should kill himself.
Oh.
Said it. There you go.
That's the only clip they're going to use from this entire podcast.
You think so?
Dick Cheney should kill himself.
There's a few
Son of
people
bitch.
that just like, man, come on. What have you done? What have you done? What have you done?
That's ridiculous.
Come on, there's some monsters out there, for sure. Just jump off bridges.
Wait, what? Oh, that should jump off
Yeah.
bridges. Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
There's too many people, for sure. And
Child molesters.
Oh, yeah.
Jump off the bridge.
there's a lot of priests out there that could definitely run into traffic. But don't do that because you fuck up somebody's car.
Oh my God.
Jump off the bridge. Right? Not the worst thing to say. Look, just this game didn't go so well. Just pull the plug on the console and let's replug this bitch in and see what happens in the next life.
You
Yeah.
tried. Bad game.
Flip the board. Just it's over. The game's over. Knock the chess pieces down. Just walk away. It's
Oh my
over,
God.
Right? There's definitely, too many taboo words today. That's for sure. I've been talking about this in my act quite a bit lately because it's just words are supposed to convey intent. They're not supposed to be magic taboo words. And half of it is not even about trying to get people to be more considerate or more kind. It's about calling people out on doing something wrong and stopping them.
Do you think the intent matters more than the word?
100%.
Because I feel like we saw that a lot with there's two big YouTubers that were in the news, or one was in the news. There was PewDiePie.
Yeah,
Felix.
let's talk about that because I saw his response video and I kind of got sickened.
Oh, really?
By what's happening to him.
Oh, by what's happening? I thought you were saying his words.
Well, it was
crazy. It was crazy.
The whole thing is insane. They're making it out like he's a Nazi.
Right.
And he's not at all.
No,
he had made some videos where he had told people to not be Nazis and to not to don't, you know, what was his exact words? I don't want to misrepresent
him. It originally started with this whole Fiverr video that he did, and then
Fiverr.
Yeah, so it's like a website where you can get people to do things originally for $5, now for more money, and so. He went through the site. It all started from this one video that got him attention. He went to Fiverr and tried to get people to do ridiculous, outrageous things.
Okay.
Right? Get a guy dressed as Jesus to say something weird. He got these. The main thing that blew up were these two guys. They're in like a jungle setting of some sort. They dance, they laugh, they'll hold up a sign, they'll say something, and so. He was like, it's going to be hilarious because they're not going to do it, right? They're going to be like, thank you, but no. But they actually made a video where the guys were laughing and dancing, held up a sign that said, death to all Jews, and then said, subscribe to a YouTube channel, right? The whole, of like someone else,
so
not his. So
he asked them to say death to all Jews?
So he wrote in as like because in the same video, he gets all these people that are like, I'm not going to do the stupid, ridiculous thing that you said. But then they actually did it. The big reason I feel like they did it is they didn't understand what the words they were writing and the words they were saying.
Oh, they're from another country?
Yeah.
What country were they from?
I don't know. I'd have to double check.
Okay. So they just essentially wrote down the symbols. They didn't really know how to even say the words.
And so
there it is.
So there it is.
Oh, yeah. And they're laughing.
Yeah. And so I think this might be from his explanation video, but in the first one, he's like, why the fuck did they do it? Can I even include this? And so then that got a little traction, and then people started going through his other videos, and they were like, he's dressed up, he's watching Hitler in this one, taken completely out of context of him saying that the YouTube Heroes program, which was a program where people can highlight videos, or not highlight them, but mark them down for deletion because they're offensive, right? And so people were like, oh, that's censorship. You're talking about like, obviously hyperbole. It's like, those are Nazis. So he made that joke in that relation. And then there was one, I want to say if it was on The Verge or Wired, but then they go even further and they're like, he used Leslie Jones' picture on Harambe, taken completely out of context because he was using, there's this Microsoft AI bot, like this chat bot, and you'd say, let me see Harambe as Jesus. And either the AI was messed up or people had manipulated it, where it was putting Leslie Jones' face on it, and he was horrified by it. And that was the whole joke, but they were saying that he was doing it.
So this is clear, like you saw him use the software, and you saw the error?
If you try and use the bot today, a picture won't come up because now they are aware that that's what was happening.
Oh.
Right? And so they took all these things, and it was this crusade of, look, guys, we're looking at this bad guy. He's the biggest guy on YouTube. He's the bad guy. We're going to take him down. So much taken out of context. Some things are not defensible where I can't say it in the sense of, like you say, that words don't have power based on intent, and I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Not saying words don't have power based on intent. I'm saying that words should just convey intent.
Right.
And there are times where there's times where like you see a friend, you go, "What's up, bitch?" And you know, like, you're having, and you're both laughing and you're being silly. And then there's times where you call someone a bitch,
right,
because you think they're being mean.
Yeah.
I mean, those two words are exactly the same, but one conveys a completely different intent.
Right. But out of this, it was very obvious that they were trying to do this takedown thing, and it blew up entirely in their face. I think I saw.
But has it? Because I don't think most people are aware. I mean, there was a Wall Street Journal article on it, right? Which was where it got really weird because 3 people worked on this and they combed through
hundreds of hours.
Yeah, I mean, and they found like instances of him holding his arm out like this, and they used that picture. Like, that's weird.
It's very weird. And then once all of it came out, that they were like, well, here's the thing about the context. He's just like Donald Trump, and it was an immediate jump to he's using the same tactics as Donald Trump, but it was just insane.
No, he's very reasonable. He did a response video about it, and the way he handled it was very reasonable.
Yeah.
And he explained what he was doing, what's going on, and he's doing hundreds of hours of him playing video games and talking and being silly. And if you comb through those and take these things, again, out of context and try to make it look like he's a Nazi, that's a hit piece.
100%.
And it's deceptive. It's not indicative of his overall, it's hard to call it a body of work, but let's call it a body of work.
Right.
His overall body of performance that's online, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
His talking. It's not who he is. So for them to call him a Nazi and say that PewDiePie has 7 videos where he's done something about Nazis, like, people, when they're doing these long-form spitball improvisation videos like that, and you're interacting with people, you're going to say all kinds of shit that in the moment is legitimate. Right. But if you chop it up and edit it and splice them all together and then make a 5-minute montage of him saying Nazi, like he's obsessed with Nazis.
And what kind of sucked from it was a lot of people think that, there are articles about the downfall of PewDiePie. I think he's gone up 500,000, if not more than 1 million in subscribers since all of this happened, right? So he's gotten all this new support. He's a temporary face for free speech and persecution from mainstream media.
Didn't he lose some gigs?
That doesn't matter for him, though. It sucks more for the people that were working on that project.
Well, what was the project?
So it was Scare PewDiePie Season 2. It was a YouTube Red series. So I think they were about to go into production, and so then that got canceled. So YouTube didn't want to fund that. And I said it. He said it. He understands why they would have to separate, because then it becomes a story of YouTube and Disney support an anti-Semite, right?
But obviously he's not an anti-Semite,
right.
So why would they back away?
I think because they were scared that the Wall Street Journal was like, did you see all of this? We're going to write this article.
How did the Wall Street Journal let that slip through? That seems to me very irresponsible.
Many of them are standing by it, though. Many people,
really?
Yes, 100%. And many are touting it as this victory because he lost Google preferred ads on YouTube, which I will say I don't know how he was still seen as family friendly, because I'm not family friendly on my show. His past 2 years, at the very least, not family friendly. And then Drop by Maker. He doesn't need his MCN, his company around him, and the YouTube Red series is nothing. He's still going to make millions of dollars. He's grown. It's a good thing. I feel like now, if you have mainstream media try and take a swing at you, it's some of the best promotion in the world.
Okay, but why did they take a swing at him, and why is anyone saying that they took down a bad guy?
I think that it's a big thing of them trying to label, and it's once again, it's the problem with a lot of media is they're overextending, right? They all of a sudden start talking about this narrative about alt-right and the rise of white supremacy again in this country, and then they look at this big guy and they're like, we can use him as an example. We can be the heroes that expose this, that do the takedown piece, and they're like so driven for that they then just they go, oh well, maybe that doesn't add up there. It's an argument, but we have the power, we have the size of the audience, we're good. And it just blew up in their face.
So they were thinking they could get away with it even though it wasn't kosher.
I believe so.
What is their response so far? Do you know? Have you read anything about it?
As far as like fans or
no? Wall Street Journal post. Are they digging their heels in?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, and then a lot of people started trying to find, as always,
other stuff,
dirt on like the authors in the past. One was like a joke from 2015 because, and while part of me would go, well, that's petty. If the argument is that context doesn't matter, then fine. Then look at these guys, what they said a year ago. Look at what they're saying now. Look,
the writers of the article.
Like I think Ben Fritz was one of the writers where he made I never knew Jews were so good at frying joke. From way back, and then he made another joke about it was like a back and forth with someone where he said, these racial jokes are so stupid, and then someone said, they hit everyone, and he said, well, at least the black jokes are funny. Those ones aren't funny, and so people were like, well, if context doesn't matter, are you a scumbag?
Right.
And then people just dismissed it as, or a lot of mainstream people dismissed it as like, oh, that's not the same thing.
How could anyone say context doesn't matter?
That's insane.
That's insane. That is an insane thing to say. Is that literally what they said? That context does not matter?
What was it? It was one of the people. I'm gonna get the problem is so many people have written about it.
Right.
There was one article that was promoted, and it said all these articles or all these people defending Felix with but context. that's a bullshit argument, and that's insane. If you think
That is
that's an
absolutely
insane. So everything exists in a highly edited bubble. Dope. So
Well,
let's ruin everyone's career.
If you're talking about a mathematician discussing algorithms, yes, context doesn't really mean that much
Right.
because he's talking about numbers. But we're not talking about numbers. We're talking about words.
Yeah.
We're talking about the way people express themselves. And we're talking about someone who is generally considered to be humorous. I mean, PewDiePie, a lot of his stuff is playful and humorous. So if you're humorous and you're playing around and you say something that might be, I don't even want to use the appropriate, it might be the thing for him to say in that moment to try to be entertaining.
Right.
That does not mean he's a Nazi.
Right.
And to label him like that is incredibly irresponsible.
Right.
And it's really, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I would sue the fuck out of him.
Right.
If I was him, I would sue the fuck out of them, for sure.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is misrepresenting who he is as a human being. And even if it's beneficial in the long run, it's super dangerous to set that precedent.
Well, especially something in this climate where you say this is what he supports and it 100% isn't. How do you know someone doesn't just see those articles, doesn't see his defense, and tries to kill the guy?
But why would the Wall Street Journal do something like this? Now, this is where the conspiratorially minded start thinking. This PewDiePie kid is this YouTube sensation, much like this Philip DeFranco guy.
Oh, I mean, I have 5 million subscribers. This guy has like 53 million.
Whatever. That's still a lot. It's a lot. But do you feel, and you have a legitimate viewpoint on this, do you feel like there is some sort of resentment or anger or so people that are working against the folks that have become these new media stars? Because, I mean, you essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of run your own thing, right?
For the most part. I am part of a company.
Now, right?
Now, yeah.
But that was a financial decision that you made along the way once you became successful doing it on your own?
In a year, I'll be back on my own, and we're going to get...
Threats.
No. This is where I start the negotiations. No, in a year... Well, because I want to start my own larger news organization of people that are from the left and from the right, can debate. Like one of my favorite...
Can I play a character? I want to wear a fake nose and a mustache, just talk shit and make things up. And lie. I want to lie. I want to be like a lying news guy.
Oh, okay. At first,
to further muddy the water.
At first, I thought you were talking about Gavin, but then you said the lie thing.
Oh no!
And
Gavin,
I was like, Gavin cracks me up, man.
He's a character, man. He's a funny motherfucker.
Because I originally knew him as a comedian, and then I found all the news stuff or maybe it's not that new, but all his political stuff. I was like, I like listening to this.
No,
this
it's
guy.
not very new at all. He was great the other day.
Yeah.
Was it yesterday? How many days ago was that? Yesterday was Dominic Cruz. 2 days ago. I do too many podcasts.
I know. I was like, who the fuck has he had on this week?
My head hurts. Yeah, Neil Tyson, Dominic Cruz.
My name should not be on any list with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I fucking love that.
How the fuck is mine on there? It doesn't make any sense either. He was awesome. That was the Neil deGrasse Tyson show. I was basically like, I threw a couple questions at him, and he just went on these epic, mind-bending rants
Let me
explaining
fuck with your
things.
brain.
Oh, he turned it inside out and then just fucking hosed it down with bleach. My brain will never be the same again. It was awesome. He's so interesting. He's like one of the most fascinating people I've ever talked to,
man.
because of his passion for things. Like the way he describes space and astrophysics, it's not just that he's so knowledgeable. It's the intense passion in which he delivers that information. It's so infectious.
Well, that's what separates people, is the passion relating everything to art, right? That way, at least it's relatable to everyone.
Well, it really is, and there's an art form to the way he does it. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, I'm sure you probably experienced at some point in your life a boring science teacher, right? We all have, where you're just like, oh my God, this guy's so boring. I would have never thought that as an adult I would be fascinated by science, that I would be constantly looking at science blogs and reading all these scientific papers and paying attention to every single news release by NASA of new exoplanets that they've discovered. Like,
the passion makes a difference. I was in school. I was way better at math, but I was fascinated with storytelling because I had a really passionate English teacher that like really and I sucked at it initially, but really got me into storytelling and just the journey and the beauty of a story. And I feel like that. We need more people like that.
Yeah.
More people that care rather than just chasing the dollar. Which, hey, no disrespect for making money. I do feel like some people villainize that, but you have to have the passion.
Well, for sure, but it's the role of the school teacher is such an underappreciated and undervalued and also it's not just undervalued, underappreciated, but when done incorrectly, it's so fucking potentially damaging. I mean, you could really screw a kid's head up. I mean, I don't know. Did any teacher ever say mean shit to you when you were a kid that stung you and like stayed with you for years and years afterwards?
Oh shoot. Well, I had some rough Catholic school teachers, but that was early days. That was elementary. That was stuff that maybe pushed me more away from the religion. I think later on it was probably my Spanish teacher who was just so disappointed anytime I got anything wrong that it just made me scared and made me I didn't have any enthusiasm to all of a sudden learn a new language, and so now I'm one of these dumb fucks that only knows one language.
Me too. Was it a man or a woman?
Woman.
Did she yell at you?
Yes.
Maybe she just wanted to fuck. Maybe she's trying to break you down, bro.
You know.
Maybe she's trying to just get you vulnerable, and the next thing you know, come over to my house. I'm going to teach you Spanish.
I'm into children that are 170 pounds and 5 foot tall.
You need to roll your tongue.
Oh, I still can't do that. I'm like, wah, wah, wah.
Rojo.
No, I got a dumb fat tongue. Doesn't work.
Really? You can't do it?
I'm like, raw. I sound like a fucking car trying to start up.
Goddamn white people.
I know.
So disappointing.
We're ruining everything. No.
We are ruining everything.
That's anyway. Wait, to jump back to what you were saying about mainstream, do they have any resentment?
Let's go back to that Pootie Pie guy. Yeah,
some places.
Yeah.
I get scared when everyone talks about stuff in generalities, right? When I talk about, and I'm guilty of it too, when I talk about like all mainstream media. It's not everyone, you know?
Right.
But there are. I stopped doing interviews with mainstream outlets several years ago because they made everything about, like, I would talk about all the really cool ventures that we're going into, how our space is changing things up, and it would always be turned into one comment that maybe was somewhat critical of, let's say, like a studio, and it would all become about that, or it would all become about like the money, and I was like, you're just fucking manipulating what I'm saying. I don't want to deal with this. Yeah. And so the point has become, when the Wall Street Journal knocks on Felix's door after they didn't apparently approach him for the original story, and they're like, hey, we want to give you a platform to tell your story. It's like, fuck you.
Is that what they're doing now?
Yeah, after the story broke and there were all these people that came to his defense, they came to him. Now, I'm not going to, I think that's what a journalist should do, right? Talk to the fucking main source.
I would assume that
but
they
not
would be
after
different journalists.
Well, so I think from what Felix wrote, it was the Wall Street Journal. They left their cards, and that's how he knew it was 100% them. But why?
But that's not what I mean. What I mean is different journalists from the Wall Street Journal, not the same ones who wrote the hit piece.
I don't know if it was the same ones.
He highly doubt that they would go, hey, we're super sorry. We called you a Nazi in front of millions of people and we were totally lying.
Yeah, but the argument all of a sudden is, why should he do an interview with the Wall Street Journal? Maybe because they have a different audience, but he has his own larger platform where he controls the narrative. He's not going to be selectively edited.
Right, but he's not speaking to the people that the Wall Street Journal disparaged him in front of. But I would assume that they're also covering their ass by going to him and reaching out and giving him a platform. They can say, well, we gave him a chance to respond, and the facts remain. He did say those things, and they are valid.
I think if he was confident enough, he should probably do what I've seen Milo Yiannopoulos do in the past, where he had someone film at the same time. So if they did misrepresent him in some manner.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they've already done it. They've already misrepresented him in the article. If he has someone film his response to that article.
No. I mean, just if he did something with them. Right? If they did film something,
no, I understand what you're
film
saying.
the entire thing just so you can show.
But I'm saying it doesn't matter because they've already done the damage. The damaging thing. Like how many people who read the first thing are even going to read the second thing?
Right.
It might even be 30%. So you got 70% people. And how many people just read the Wall Street Journal and maybe a local paper and aren't online and aren't hearing all these responses? And they go, they catch their son. Oh, what are you watching? I'm watching Pootie Pie. Oh, you watching that Nazi? That guy's a Nazi. No, he's not, Dad. You hate everything I like.
And now that kid's doing meth for the rest of his life.
I don't know about that.
I think that it is sad, right? That's a huge problem with a lot of the fake news or just news that's false is the crazy salacious shit.
Yeah.
If you then look at the correction half the time, that gets like 20 times the shares. You know why? Because it's fucking insane. It's like, did you see this? Did you see this thing? And it's something that I've been critical of people I like in the industry, critical of a lot of the mainstream guys that I don't like. And it sucks because there's not a clear answer. Do you delete the false thing and then it looks like you're hiding that information? Do you?
Well, you should definitely delete the false thing. But
So
if you
that's my argument. But then
Right.
there's an argument that you leave it up because you show that you were wrong. If it's on Twitter, you quote tweet it, but that still doesn't fix it because as much as we talk about bubbles and separation, that tweet, that promotion of a thing is separate from everything else in the world.
Tweets are problematic anyway because it's 140 characters and it's very difficult to adequately explain some subjects in 140 characters. But if you put out some information that's not true, like this PewDiePie thing,
Right.
you absolutely should print a retraction, and you absolutely, if you have it still up on your website, the first thing you should say is this is all taken out of context and it's incorrect and it does not represent who this guy is, and you should absolutely not have those writers do that again.
Right.
I mean, whether you fire them or whether you assign, who knows what they were asked to do. This is another part of the problem. I mean,
Right.
was this an independent thing that they decided to pursue on their own? Did someone ask them to do it? Was there someone who decided that this guy was a Nazi because maybe they tuned in at the very moment he was doing something?
Right.
And they're like, and some people obviously are very, very sensitive to that kind of stuff. So
I think that's why it's important, especially on an editorial team of some sort, to have people with mixed opinions, because it's very easy to all of a sudden get railroaded behind an idea of just like, yeah, look at these 7 specific things. We're not going to say that it's out of context, but look at this information. We got this guy. We got this guy dead to rights, but it's all flimsy.
Well, again, context, right? As soon as I mean, that is part of the problem with doing something like you do, and it's certainly part of the problem with a podcast, is if you're talking for 3 hours and you take these little snippets of those 3 hours out of context, it paints a completely distorted perception of who the
Right.
person is. But that's also a problem with language in general. I mean, it really is a problem with, and it's certainly a problem with words. And that's one of the problems with these, quote, magic words, like that you're not supposed to say anymore, whatever those words are. You know, you give so much weight to these words that just taken alone on their own, they can get you in trouble. Just uttering the phrase as if it was a magic abracadabra
I think
can
it's
get
just,
you in trouble.
I think it's important that we stop trying to, oh God, it rhymes and it's not on purpose. We have to stop just blindly hating and we try and educate, right? I think that...
Don't blindly hate.
Educate.
It's an after-school special starring Philly D.
Oh God, that sounds like straight up something from
Hey,
the
kids,
90s.
you're on a skateboard, you pull up. Don't hate, educate. Yeah.
But I mean,
Ding.
if you want to talk about allies, you want to talk about people meeting you, right? There was, if you turn into the trans issue, right? For the longest time, I didn't want to ever touch the issue because if I used a wrong pronoun, I was the fucking devil. I was the devil, and I was like, just educate me at that time. And this is years ago when at that time I had never met anyone that was trans. It was just a completely new concept to me. And all of a sudden it was just like I said he when I should have said she, and it was like I was the worst person in the world, and people wanted to like ruin me and like end me.
But it's again what we were talking about before. It's not really what they're doing. What they're doing is trying to find a way to control you and call you a bad person and be angry at you. They could see that it was a mistake, or if it wasn't a mistake, you just look. If someone was a he for 30 fucking years and they became a she for a year and you still call him a he, I don't think you're a monster. Okay? I just don't. We knew Bruce Jenner for his entire life. Even saying Bruce Jenner now, you're not supposed to say it anymore. When you go and look at the records for the fucking Olympics, it says Caitlyn Jenner now.
Yeah, well,
Is that true?
Is that real?
I'm pretty sure it's true.
He's like, wait 1 second, let me fucking Google this.
I'm pretty sure it's true.
But
I
so
might be wrong.
So I think that's what pushed so many people away. And then the way that I try to make it so no one's the villain in my head so that I can see where they're coming from. I go, well, maybe that person, maybe they're not, because there are definitely professional victims and cry bullies out there. Maybe there's someone that in their day-to-day life, someone says, you fucking tranny. Maybe they say all this hateful stuff.
but that's not what you're saying.
No, I know, but then they take it out on the wrong person, right? I try and see if like, is this person being attacked so much that then they become this accidental monster, which is what has pushed me more towards the center. Before I came to California, I was an ultra liberal. I had the most liberal ideas of like, yeah, if I'm a doctor and I'm making $3 million a year, I should give 70%. Like fucking crazy.
Yeah, you were thinking that because you weren't a doctor and you
Because I
weren't
had no
making
fucking
$3
money.
million
Because
a
I
year.
had no fucking money.
Poor people always think like that.
Hey, you wanna slowly come to the center? Fucking start a business.
Yeah.
But so, and then being around people every day, that's 100%, because you see the problems with many of the arguments. It was, I think, also part of the reason I was ultra liberal is there's definitely, as you're growing up, a counterculture thing, and I grew up in the South, so it was just like everyone's wrong and I'm
What
enlightened.
part of the South?
North Carolina for a while, Florida for a bit.
What part of North Carolina?
Asheville.
Oh,
But that's
I
like
love
the hip,
that
that's like
place.
the hippie
That's
part.
so
that's
hippie.
like the hippie part.
That's as left as it gets.
Yeah. But then you go
That's
you
an
go
awesome
you go
town,
around,
man.
you start going out and like
Oh yeah. Just walk straight, and you're eventually going to run into a burning cross.
yeah, it's like old people in hacky sack and then hate right around the corner.
It's an awesome city, though.
Yeah, it's
or
great.
I guess you call it town.
Yeah.
It's really too small for a city. But
Yeah.
I played Asheville a few years back.
Oh, yeah?
God, I got to get back there. It's amazing there.
You can go to the was it the Biltmore House? They got really small chairs.
What is that?
It's just like this giant compound. I don't know the history of it, but when I went there, I was just like, oh, so people used to be like really short. That's really interesting.
They have really tiny chairs because that's how people were back then?
They were just smaller, shorter
They
people.
didn't have any food, man. That's the
just
reality.
malnourished,
If you go
dying.
back there and give those fuckers some goddamn American beef.
I forget who I was listening. I was blown away. I also had the same belief that people just died when they were 30.
Yeah, it was Chris Ryan.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
I was
I
like,
think so.
oh,
Yeah.
infant mortality fucks up the numbers.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Totally
I
makes
think you just
sense.
got to make sure people know that no one's infallible. You know, everyone can be wrong.
Like it's one of those numbers that gets incorrectly used, like the gender wage gap. It's sort of another similar number that gets incorrectly used. People say like women make 80 cents to every dollar a man makes. Not really. They do overall, but it's not the same jobs. It's not like the woman is a doctor and the man's a doctor. The man makes $1, the woman makes 80 cents. No, it's like the woman is a nurse and the man is a fucking coal miner. You know, like it's one of those things.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd have to like dive deep and educate myself on, because I'm just like, yes, that sounds legit, but I have to check myself.
Well, that's a weird one too. What is this? U.S. Olympic Committee will update Bruce Jenner's Hall of Fame plaque to say Caitlyn.
I saw a headline this morning.
She wants.
I saw a headline this morning that said like Caitlyn said something that like this presidency is ridiculous, and I was like, why do we care? Why do we
Caitlyn's
care?
a
what-
moron.
No,
She's
but-
a fucking
but
moron.
why do we care what celebrities think?
But how about this? Caitlyn Jenner doesn't believe in fucking gay marriage.
Is she
Yes, doesn't
still on
believe in
that?
gay marriage.
Huh.
I'm more of a traditionalist. That's what she said. I'm more of a traditionalist. You're definitely not. Okay? I don't know what traditions you're talking about.
But anytime any of these places get any of these the celebrities to have an opinion, I'm like, no. I think the election proved no one fucking cares.
Yeah. Well,
no one cares what these fucking people say.
Especially Caitlyn Jenner. Like, at the end of the day, you don't get a free pass just because you change your gender. You're still judged based on the quality of your thoughts and how you express yourself. And if you are a fucking grown adult and you're against gay marriage, but you're also transgender, you're crazy. And I know she's buckled down because of some of the pressure that people put on her, like Ellen, and she kind of like softened her stance on it. But the bottom line is, you're in your fucking 60s, and you don't think that men should be able to get married if they're in love with each other? You're out of your mind, or women, or anybody. Just fuck off. You're stupid.
See, I feel like more and more people, when I started hearing about like this new kind of Republican, I thought it was, I think, and I've seen a lot of people
alt-right?
Well, no. So a lot of people have then talked about, there's this weird thing where it's like all of a sudden you say new kind of Republican, they go, oh, so you're talking about white supremacists under a whole different banner. I'm talking about
Nazis.
Yeah, so what I was talking about were people that, Republicans that don't give a fuck about gay people getting married. And like they're like, I'm a Republican because, small government. Right, and jobs, but not like if gay people get married, that's fine. If it's a moral issue like that, I find myself more liberal. And I all of a sudden became kind of excited like about all these new people that didn't give a fuck, and that was interesting to me. But then you see a lot of other stuff that I don't know how to feel about.
A lot of other stuff that you don't know how you feel about. What do you mean?
I'm trying to think of how to say it.
Don't beat around the bush.
No. I'm
Philly.
trying to think of how to say it. Because there's all these fucking different avenues. There's some people that they'll maybe consider themselves alt-right because they just love fucking trolling people. Like
Right.
how do I trigger someone with some crazy outrageous thing, right? And it's like I get it, but then there are people then that you can take it a whole different avenue where it's like, no, that thing, it is now white supremacy. That Pepe the Frog, it is. And to the point where fucking Hillary Clinton puts a thing on her website where she's like, this is a white supremacist symbol. That's insane.
Wait a minute, what is? The frog?
Do you remember Pepe the Frog? Yeah, they were like, it is 100% a white supremacist
She
symbol.
put that on her website?
Yes.
Well,
This
that was
a
just because the
fucking thing.
Donald Trump people were using that frog to troll online.
But you overextend, you look like an idiot.
Okay, but here's part of the problem. When you're talking about people who troll online, go back to when you were a young liberal and you thought that if I was a doctor and I was making $3 million a year, of course I should be given 70% in taxes. You don't have that, so you're looking at the people who do, and this part of you is like, give it away, man. You don't deserve it. Give it away. That same mentality exists with trolls. They don't have anything going on. They're fucking losers for the most part. So what do they want to do? They want to burn it all down. They want the whole thing burned down. Go Trump! Go Trump! Half the reason why they want to say go Trump is because they want this clearly maniacal person to just throw a fucking monkey wrench into the gears and watch the whole system explode. That's half of what they're doing. They don't have a vested interest in it. They're not successful. They're not happy. They're not doing well.
I think
they're trolls.
If you're talking about all Trump supporters, I think part of that is true.
I'm not talking about all anything.
Okay, because I was
certainly
like,
not talking about all Trump supporters. I'm talking about trolls. Those
Okay.
people with the green frog, fucking with the crazy hair on their Twitter profile. I mean, there's a lot of them that if you go over their Twitter feed, they're online 13 hours a day shitting on people. I mean, that's what some people do. Look, dude. There's a few people that I follow, and I don't follow them either.
Right.
I just go to their page. I have them bookmarked, and I'll go to their page. Like, look at this crazy asshole. What's he been up to today? And what have they been up to? Just trolling liberals, just going crazy and shitting on that Jake Tapper guy. Boy, that fucking guy's Twitter feed is a mess. Why? Because he fucking summoned the ire of the trolls. There's a lot of people out there that are disenfranchised and very upset and unhappy and just can't wait to burn it down. They just want to burn it all down. They don't have any fucking stake in the game. They want it to burn.
But then where do we go from that?
Well, those people need love, okay?
So
Those
give them
people
love,
need. Well, it's
Joe.
too late. It's too late. They got shitty parents. They live in a shitty neighborhood. Their job sucks. They probably have poor genetics. They're fucked. They got a shit hand of life. And they're
You're
looking
offending
at
Jamie
Kate
right now.
Upton. Jamie's a handsome man.
He's a closet troll. You don't even know.
Oh, Jamie's the opposite of a troll. They're looking at Kate Upton and her beautiful tits, and they're like, fuck her, fuck everybody, burn it down. Why can't I have this? Oh, Conor McGregor's got a limousine. Light him on fire. That's what they're doing. They're mad. They're not happy. They're not successful, and they get to talk. That's a big part of what you have in the society where people are being incredibly mean at every opportunity. When people have the opportunity to troll, people have did you see some of the shit that people wrote to Patton Oswalt after his wife died?
No, I didn't see any of the crazy stuff.
Unbelievably vicious, mean, evil shit. And why do they do that? Because they want to burn it down. They want to burn it down.
I think it's part of it. Part is going to be that they want to burn it down, but I think it's just also there are a lot of people that don't have the concept of shit that we do online having potentially horrible ramifications in the real world. I think that slowly we're getting closer to that, where it's all the fucking same thing. And if you do some crazy outlandish shit, you should know that a ton of people might see it. It's why it's one of my favorite things to screenshot and talk back to a few people that say stupid shit to me online. Just because it's like you think that you're saying it in this tiny room, but the internet's fucking everybody in a room.
Right.
Everyone, what you say has ramifications.
Well, not only that, you shouldn't want to say it. So you have to get to the root of the problem. Why would someone want to be so evil? Why would someone want to hurt someone's feelings so badly that you're mocking his
I think there are a lot of people that
just died?
Yes. So that's a horrible emotional example. But
and why?
Right. So what I would say separately from that, if you're talking about trolling liberals or something like that, I think that there are people that want to burn the whole thing down, and then I think there are some people that literally they have the mindset that it's just for laughs, right?
Well, that's a game.
And so it's one of those things where I don't know. I don't think those people are inherently evil. I think that, especially if you're talking about a Patton Oswalt thing, that's incredibly wrong and horrible. But it's my question becomes how do I talk to that person, right? How do I not?
How do you talk to who? Patton Oswalt or the troll?
No, the trolls.
Well, you got to go back in time to where their mother was raising them and take them away from the mom and bring them to a happy person and give them love and lots of hugs.
I think people, as long as you don't automatically call someone the villain, I think that you can get some people. Not all of them, because some people, like you said, they want to like
If you
fucking
don't
throw a hand
automatically
grenade.
call them the villain when they're a troll, when they're evil. Is that what you mean?
Yes, when they're maybe saying something they would see as evil things. When I'm not talking about the Patton Oswalt situation, because if you go after someone grieving over their wife, you're a fucking horrible monster, and hopefully you do understand that has real world ramifications.
Or not. If you're just an egg, you might be able to get away with it. If you're just a little egg, fuckface69 on Twitter, and you can get away with it. They'll ban your account, whatever. Ha ha.
Yeah.
I got him. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're trying to get a reaction. It's like you're playing a game. You're playing Operation, and when that tweezer hits the sides and goes like, "Ha! I saw it. It happened.
It was a thing."
Yeah, it was a thing.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not gonna do it myself.
Of course you're not.
But I wanna try and talk. I wanna talk to people, man.
You do?
Yeah.
Why don't you why don't you have a show, a reach out show?
It'll be good for 2 weeks, and then it'll just be, I'll end up on like
trolled.
one of those like fucking Howard Stern things where they just have those people that get trolled the entire time. It's like, we have another caller. God damn! God damn it!
It could be Windy City Heat. You could have a whole movie about you. You don't even know about it. Yeah, I just it's a new thing. It's a new thing for human beings. This unbridled communication ability.
Yeah, and here's the thing. There's gonna be the whole like, let's destroy each other war. I'm just going to try and be the asshole that's in the middle with leanings here and there that tries to go like, hey, maybe we fucking calm down. It's not the best thing for my career, because I would have a far larger audience if I pandered to just one side, because I alienate people daily by having left views and then right views.
Wait, that's so crazy. You really think that your audience would be bigger if you just picked a side and ran with it? No.
Yes. Are you kidding me?
Like who?
I think that Crowder is
Who
very
in
fair.
your area?
I think Crowder is fantastic. He's one of the fairer guys, but I think he does a great job.
He doesn't have a bigger audience than you.
No, bigger than me.
You're crazy. Your audience is way bigger than his. You have 5 fucking million YouTube subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, daily active is like 1 million.
So what?
Right?
That's a lot.
Right. But I'm talking. Okay, so
If you have
Tommy
a
Lahren.
video.
Tommy Laren's a fantastic example.
Okay.
Tommy Lahren hits tens of millions on Facebook.
Bad example. Hot girl and a conservative, and there's dudes out there greasing their guns with their dick in their left hand that are super excited about that. They
Right.
love a hot conservative. Yeah, she's mean. She don't like Mexicans. Whoa!
But she is very one side, right?
Yes.
It can be under the veil of I hate snowflakes, but there's hypocrisy in that a little bit, in the sense of every time she's screaming, she does seem like a snowflake on some of the topics. But
Don't you think that's for effect, though, for dramatic effect? Because half of it is performance art.
right, but that's the thing, right? But it's aimed at one group of people, and you've seen the massive rise where it started as this like kind of small thing, it blew up. Now you see her on Fox News, but she doesn't even need that because she has a giant platform.
Oh, but it's definitely a good move for her to be on Fox News.
Right. It's a different audience, but it is playing to one side.
But I still don't think she's as big as you.
I think so.
No,
I think so.
Go to her Twitter feed. Find out what her Twitter feed is, how many she has, and then go. How many Twitter feed people you got?
800,000. I'm not huge on.
I bet she
Twitter.
has less. I bet she has less. What about her? Did she
You got
have
to look at the engagement though, because how long
the
has she
engagement.
been?
You're one of those
doing
guys.
That?
You're paying attention.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to shit.
No, you don't care about the engagement if you're a sales guy and you're like, he has 5 million.
What does she got here?
642.
Oh, you've got her beat.
Her engagement's a little low, though.
Her engagement's a little low. How weird. Oh, she's got her hashtag final thoughts. Fuck off, Tommy.
Oh my god.
Fuck off with your final thoughts. Get out of here.
No, but she like you were saying, whether you consider it performance art, whether you consider it anything, she plays one side, and it has been a very massive successful rise. I think that, but what I want to do for the long
she's
term.
hot. Okay, you're not taking that into account. Like you're saying that if you went one way, show me
Right.
another guy who's gone one way, who looks like you, a reasonable, normal-looking fella. You're not some super buff pro athlete or some androgynous weirdo that people can't take their eyes away from. You're just a regular guy.
If you're looking at maybe like monthly views on owned and operated sites, YouTube, all the other places, The Young Turks, who I'm not really I know them, but I'm not a fan of the messaging a lot of the time. They're massive. I think they get more.
They've been around a long
monthly views and
time doing that stuff, though. Yeah, they get a lot of monthly views, but they also get a lot of hate, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that hate watch Cenk.
Yeah,
you ever
but
look
there's
at like,
also
the
a shit
comments
ton
on
of
his
views in that.
videos?
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah.
They go after him hard. I hope he stays. He should have. He should watch YouTube with like a blinder, like right there. We could only look at the video. Like he straps some shit on where he can't read the comments at all.
Hire
like,
someone that only reads the happy
woo.
comments.
Don't read them at all. Don't even engage.
Right.
Stay away.
But I like the conversations on mine though. I mean, you have people that are really passionate, but then there are a lot of threads where it's like people having conversations that don't normally disagree with each other.
Well, I'm saying this, the whole reason why I said it in the first place is more of a compliment than anything. I think it's a great thing that you're very, like, here's a perfect example. The way you handled the Milo Yiannopoulos thing. I think you're very fair. And I think it's great that you're neither left nor right, but rather reasonable.
Right.
You know, you're reasonable and considered. And I think that's one of your strengths. I don't think you would have a bigger audience if you just went all right. I think you'd be a big old phony unless you became Felina, and then you got some tits and put on a nice little dress, and then you could wear like sleeveless shirts, you know, because right now if you wear sleeveless shirts, you're a douchebag because you're a male. Right? If you're a man and you show your arms, you're a piece of shit.
Also, I got to start going to the gym because no one wants to see that now.
Maybe they would. Maybe they'd be like a Lena Dunham type thing. It'd be even bigger. So if you're going to go and become a woman, you either become a hot woman or a fucking sloppy one. A really sloppy one who celebrates food. And this is who I am. Love it or leave it. Fuck off.
I find that like the Lena Dunhams end up doing more damage to their cause than good.
Or she has 100 million Twitter followers and she's got food stuck in her teeth and no one gives a shit. Big old fucking sloppy arms like a 300-pound man's legs. There's nothing wrong with it.
I remember like a few days before the election, she put out this fucking animated video where she was talking with her dad, and it was the death of the white male.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Women empowerment by destruction of another. Dope.
Amazing that she's doing it all on a platform invented by white males. How bizarre.
Is that true?
Is that
true, Joe?
It's called the internet. And Al
Like,
Gore is
actually-
white. I know Al Gore.
And he
I
invented
saw
it.
his movie. He's so white. Well, the death of the white male? What?
But whether it be like
All those people who don't want to fuck me. Death.
oh god, the when it was the Odell Beckham Jr. thing. Did you see that? This was a while ago. She sat at the same table and she wrote this whole post about how he looked at her like she was a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What? What are you talking about?"
She just made it up.
Just
She's
in her
like, I was
head.
just trying to be humorous.
In her head.
Yeah.
Did she say the humorous thing?
I don't know.
It's because I think she wrote this then apology where she was like, it was all in my head, and I was like, God, again.
I try to not mention her as much as
really?
possible, but it happens so often. And, you know, the weirdest thing was how she was giving a free pass for sexually assaulting her young sister.
Oh, the weird
Shoving things up her vagina when she was little. Like, what?
Well, so that's where, right? That's where when you say like I'm reasonable with the Milo thing, well, because you have to take into context other people, right? Is it a hit job? But also what you said earlier, where people are human beings, and let's talk it out. So Milo said some things that even he said he apologized for. Others he said was misconstrued, but it's and then there's the George Takei thing, which is different but still the same. You know what I mean?
George Takei thing you have to explain to people because most people have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, so this is a problem for me. I have conversations in my head that then I utter words halfway
Well, you're
through.
just so entrenched with media. You have
Right.
so much shit coming into your head every day that you assume everybody else is watching the same videos.
But they're just actually living their lives.
So they did a hit piece on George Takei essentially to sort of show that George Takei, well, he was talking about his own personal experiences when he was very young with a camp counselor who did some sexually inappropriate things to him.
Right.
But he was talking about them in a very positive way, that he enjoyed it, and people were saying George Takei is promoting sex amongst 13-year-olds as being okay. No, he's talking about his own personal experience and being honest about it.
Well, and then the way that ends up becoming a comparison is that because it ends up being this weird argument of numbers, of lines in the sand, where he said, I said 13 because that's when I had my first experience. Then we talked about the age of, oh God, I'm trying to remember. He talked about the age of 14, which was, I think, when you were, so that was a conversation he had with you
Yes.
with the priest situation.
Priest, yeah.
Right. And then people were pointing out that his mindset changed. And my argument there was what you're talking about. To me, even if he at any point before he acknowledged it, to me it sounded like he was a victim.
Yes.
But then that creates the argument too of, if someone's a victim early in life, what does that excuse later on? Now, I'm not making the argument that Milo then went on to do and became a Sandusky. Right? He was having a conversation and it's words. But at what point do we excuse things? And that's just that's a conversation I like to have where it's not damning. I don't want to go in on a victim, but also at the same time I'm going, it's fucking weird. It's me, and I think it's completely wrong if you have an adult that's trying to fuck a 13-year-old. I think that's
100%.
completely wrong. Like, just when you, and I feel like you always have to put people in your in their shoes. Where if I was a parent and I'm dropping my kid off to fucking middle school and I find out some 25-year-old is fucking my son, I'm gonna go to jail. But that's gonna be a fucking dead person, 100%. That someone's molesting my child, no, done.
Yeah, I mean, I completely feel you, and I understand what you're saying. I think what the Milo situation is very bizarre because I think there is irreparable damage that's done to people when they're molested as children. And I think Milo has been really clear about the fact that he was molested, and he's tried to paint it in a positive light. But he tries to paint a lot of fucked up things in a positive light, and it could easily be his rationalizing and trying to figure
100%.
out. Yeah.
No one wants to be a victim in their own life, right?
So he's made it a positive thing.
He took control. It was him.
Yes.
So that's why I say, let's think of it in that way rather than going, he's against me, let's just destroy him.
Well, I think
He
problem
says outlandish
is
things.
that Milo does that. I mean, he's a merchant of outrage. That's his business. And when people get outraged back at him, and if somehow or another sticks, like this pedophile stuff, you can't be upset. This is the game that you started to play. If you get knocked the fuck out, if you're Mike Tyson and all of a sudden you get knocked out, are we supposed to feel bad for you? You've been knocking people out your whole career.
Right.
He's a merchant of outrage. If it's valid, if the outrage is valid, and I think it's valid, I think that what they're saying about what he was saying is absolutely valid. If he says that there can be incredibly positive relationships between very young men or very young boys rather, and older gay men, and that this could keep men from suicide, hit the brakes.
Right.
Stop. No, it's fucking illegal for a reason.
Right.
And you could potentially be encouraging someone who's fence sitting right now thinking about fucking kids to hop right over to the other side and start doing it because it was positive for Milo.
It does
he
become
said
that
it was
conversation.
beneficial. It is the conversation.
It is that conversation because also to that extent there might be someone that is 13 that's being abused that all of a sudden feels like that's normal.
Right.
So but let's talk about it. I 100% don't agree with the words. It is a tricky situation because you are talking about someone that was a victim of heinous crime. And then just then talking about it and going from there.
But it's also, he said that he was gay at the time. He knew he was gay, and he was the sexual predator. And every situation has its own variables, right? And in look, he's clearly a damaged guy, okay? And I like him. He's clearly a damaged guy. But the way he lashes out and the way he gets attention, I don't like the left's reaction to him. I like that far less than I like what he's saying. I feel like with a guy like Milo, he's not doing any real violent things. He's not doing any real damage. And what you should do is confront him with words.
Yes.
Debate him. Pick apart his arguments about feminism, about transgender people, about gay rights. Because he's got some crazy thoughts about gay people, and he's gay. He thinks that it's a choice, and he thinks that it's offensive, and if he could have a pill to not be gay, he would take it in a heartbeat. And he said all kinds of crazy shit.
I think when you have someone like Milo or anyone else, the number one thing shouldn't be let me silence that person, right? Because that's just gonna bolster them, validate them, let them talk. Right.
Yes.
So when you see situations like Berkeley, where I did see, I had people that sent me videos, and there was a protest in the beginning that it was just people being outspoken, and then there was the fucking crazy chaos of people. I know that you've talked about it before, of the people getting sprayed in the face with fucking pepper spray, people beaten in the streets. Obviously, I hate those people. What I really, really hate is the people that aren't doing that are like, yeah, that's what we should be doing, that aren't doing. Like, are you fucking crazy? You think this is a positive? You think this bolsters your argument that we're going to go against what we don't agree that they're saying with fucking violence? You think that makes you the winner? That's insane. It's straight up insane.
Well, it's also they put these blanket labels. He's a Nazi. He promotes genocide. They say all these things, and they say these things so that they can attack.
Well, there was that whole like
he's a fascist,
punch a Nazi movement after Richard Spencer got punched in the face. Which, once again,
who's Richard Spencer?
Or wait, am I getting the name wrong? No, the guy that I'm gonna double check.
Go ahead.
You've made me doubt myself now. He's part of.
You might be right. I just don't know who it is.
Yeah. You always see
What's
his
his
face.
name?
He just got booted out of
Richard
CPAC,
Spencer.
from what I understand.
Richard Spencer.
So he talks about just look him up. You're not gonna. I imagine you aren't gonna be a fan, but people are like, he's a literal Nazi. We got to punch these people. That people like overjoyed.
So he really is a Nazi.
People just happy. But
is
the
he a
problem
white supremacist? This guy?
I don't want to label this guy on it. I think that you should.
Does he call himself a white nationalist or anything like that? Is he one of those guys?
That's the website.
Neo-Nazi.
Oh, he's a neo-Nazi.
See neo-Nazi everywhere. I don't know if he calls himself that. I'll double check.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want to slam a label on someone and then do that
hard.
thing, right?
It's
hard.
Yeah.
But so he got punched in the face. Everyone fucking cheered for it. But the problem is, then you move the goalposts of who's a fucking Nazi. All of a sudden, PewDiePie's a fucking Nazi. Everyone's a Nazi, and we can just be violent.
Punch Nazis. Yeah, the punch Nazi thing.
And so the whole thing is just debate these people, right? So like just let them be their own undoing if they are actually that wrong.
Well, I think there's a giant problem with groups of humans. When groups of humans get together, I mean that the phrase mob mentality exists for a reason. It's not, you don't say mob mentality and people go, why, whatever do you mean, Philly D? What is a mob mentality? No, people know what happens. Giant groups of people face something called diffusion of responsibility. And that means when chaotic events are going on, they don't take responsibility for their own action because they're a part of this gigantic chaotic movement. And I personally, and this is just totally unfounded, I'm definitely not a scientist, I think it came from war. And I think people are used to large-scale tribal war, and I think it's been going on for so long, and the atrocities that are required for you to survive in war, like, with battle axes and shit, Braveheart style. I think once that breaks out, you lock into this massive mind sink with all the people around you, and you just accept this violent chaos. And I think that happens on campuses when people burn it down, burn it down. That is the same mindset. Everyone is involved in this hurricane of chaos, and you just get swept up in this mob mentality. And it's a really dangerous thing. Like, I'm sure you saw the girl that got maced in the face that had the Make Bitcoin Great Again hat, and they hit her over the head with a stick. Like, what in the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, if you think that's okay, I think you're in the wrong. 100%.
It's just a girl.
Yeah.
Just a girl, non-violent, non-motion. She was stationary.
Yeah,
she was not threatening whatsoever.
I think if you listen to the audio before all of it happens, outside of that clip, she's literally saying, I'm actually surprised things are pretty calm here, because sometimes things go out of hand and then 20 seconds later, pepper spray to the face.
Yeah, they just decided that her hat was a Trump hat, and so they just blasted her. And it wasn't even a Trump hat. I mean, it had the right font.
Yeah.
So she had to get punished.
And so I feel like that's the big thing of understanding, whether
Wasn't
it be...
it a 60-year-old man that did it to her too, or something?
I don't know that.
Something insane?
I don't know that.
Find out that, because someone told me that it was a 60-year-old man that pepper sprayed her in the face.
So, I mean, obviously we're talking about different kinds of severity, but there are people on both sides, and it's important to acknowledge that want to burn the whole fucking thing down, whether it be a person or an argument.
Yeah, and
Right.
if you're a 60-year-old man, you're still a fucking loser, and there's a pretty girl in front of you, and you're like, burn it down, I could never fuck you when I was young, and I can't fuck you now. Yeah, Nazis.
It's ridiculous, man. I'm very much of the belief that we have, rather than more and more people are talking about generalities where it's the left versus the right. I feel like a lot of the conversation, a lot of the stories end up being about these far left and far right people that are like fucking Pac-Manning their way to the middle and just slowly absorbing more and more people into their opinion. And what's scary is if they ever do get to the center, right? If it does become all of us in an us versus them. On Facebook, it's a lot closer to that. In
Really?
real
You
life,
think so?
Yeah.
How so?
after the election, I don't know about your personal like family and friend group, but how many people like cut off contact with each other for a while? Because on mine, holy fuck, it was like war. It was war, ending of relationships that had been longer than a decade. Insanity.
Really?
Yes.
Like your family members?
Yeah. Most of it, a lot of it's extended. Extended family.
Man, what happened?
Just people just saying like, well, one, there was I come from a family that they're fine with like independence. So there was right after the election, there was that whole like all independents did this. Even in California, if you voted for fucking anybody,
If you voted for Jill Stein, you took votes away from Hillary Clinton.
like, do you know how the electoral college works? You fucking idiot. Like, California is going to go to someone else. But yeah, just people going at each other because they're like, if you voted for Trump, you're a racist, sexist monster, and if you voted for Hillary, you wanted people to not have health care, and she's a fucking crook, and she should be in jail, and just
Drain the swamp.
yeah.
Drain
I went
the
to like I love the people I work with, but I went like emotions were high. People at my office we have a team of like 40 outside of my group, but people were crying. Like it was chaos.
I know a dude who was in the CIA, and he was telling me about his office where he works, that one of the women at the office was openly weeping.
Oh wow.
And he's like, hey, that's can't do that here. This is not the place for that. This is a weep-free zone.
Ooh.
You can't weep over democracy not going your way.
I mean, for a lot of liberals, I knew it was like a national day of mourning.
Yeah.
And then for everyone else that voted for him, it was just the day that we'll always remember.
Oh, there was a lot of people that were super happy. That's for sure.
Yeah, I feel like everyone was either like burning bridges or coming out to their friends in a way of like, or friends and family as Trump supporters, because there were a lot of people that were scared.
Yeah. Well, I think that he represents a lot of very dangerous things, you know, and he, in a lot of people's eyes, this is the death of responsibility. He can get away with more things. And then also all the different business ties and different entanglements and all the different things. And also, you know, he's just the way he communicates, that like people don't feel like it's statesmanly, and it's not representative of what they would like to think of as someone who is the president of the United States. They want to think about someone who's incredibly noble and well-spoken and the best representative that we can have. You know, like, forget about Obama's policies, okay? But him as a human being standing in front of that podium talking as the president was a joy, in that he was very measured and very calm. And I think that he's also very articulate and very well educated. And that thing that he represented when he was up there, that thing, the president, that figurehead that he represented, he did such an amazing job of representing that because he was exceptional.
Right.
He's an exceptional man. He's exceptionally smart. He's exceptionally well-read. The way he communicates is smooth, and even the way he's responded to criticism was very well measured, you know?
So
although he did fuck up when he was joking around about Trump back in the day, you know, like he was like, he was joking about Trump's criticism of him. But you know what? I'm one thing that you'll never be, the president. Ha! You fucked up.
So I agree with what you said about, like, I think he's going to be one of the most well-spoken presidents of my lifetime.
Yeah, well
right?
received,
but
after the fact.
There's going to be a lot of people that look at that and go, yes, but it was all phony. It was all an act.
Maybe.
Trump may speak 6 syllables at a time and break and then go on tangents.
Bad things. Very bad things.
Hey, it's in the bubble.
Some bad things.
It's in the bubble of bad hombres. It's in the bubble of... But I feel like there are people that go, you know what, he's not the best speaker in the world, but he's more real, right? So there's going to be that argument. I 100% agree with you about Obama as far as like the office and the nobility, but there are going to be people that say it's just bullshit. That's why we needed something different.
Maybe, but you know, there's other people that look at the whole thing and they say this is a well-needed break from the system. That, you know, I
think it's a big test. It's a test of our system.
Well, there's been people that have been controlling the system, people that were deeply entrenched in the left and deeply entrenched in the right for so long, that he's the first businessman that has been... He's been a participant in our system. He's been essentially paying these guys off for years and years, and now here he is. Like he talked pretty openly, which I thought was hilarious, about Hillary and Bill coming to his wedding and that the reason why they did it is because he paid them. You know, I mean, he paid them, I think it was more than $100,000 for them to come to his wedding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. That's just how they do things.
Do you mean do you think he literally paid them, or he gave them like a donation and then they were like, well, we might as well?
Donation. I mean, let's be real about what the Clinton Foundation is. Whether or not it did good work, it's a goddamn pay-to-play operation. And one of the things that they got, besides the donations, which I'm sure did go to charitable causes, they got paid to speak. And they didn't just get paid to speak a little. They got paid to speak hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they did it over and over and over again, both Bill and Hillary. And there's a reason why. For the same reason why Trump won't release his taxes, Hillary won't release the transcripts of those speeches that she gave to the banks, because they would be horrific. If they weren't horrific, she would release them. It would be really simple. No, I said some great things about income equality and how we all need to, support impoverished communities. Fuck you, you did. Because if you did, you would release that, and everybody would go, oh, even though Hillary's worth millions of dollars, she's super fair.
Right.
She's reasonable. No, there was none of that.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
It's a corrupt system, man. It's a system that they've figured out how to find loopholes, and they've created legislation over the years that have allowed them to skirt through these weird sort of fucking avenues of legality, and they get to this point where they're making insane amounts of money as a public servant. I mean, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have earned hundreds of millions of dollars, and doing what? Do you have a business? Are you selling laptops?
Right.
What are you doing? You have a new car that you're selling? Where are you making all this fucking money? Oh, just talking. How weird. You're making hundreds of millions of dollars talking when you used to be the president. And who's paying you? Oh, this is weird. The people that are paying you are the people that benefited from you being in the... Wait a minute. Did they pay you off? Are you... Hold on.
Different. It's different.
Are you corrupt?
It's different. No.
Exactly. Right? But that's the argument, and that's what it is. And that's the drain the swamp shit. I mean, that's where it came from.
Right.
So Donald Trump's not guilty of that. Okay?
Of doing that sort of thing?
That thing. He's not guilty of getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to talk and to give his influence as a person who's serving, whether it's the Senate or someone who's a president. Right. That's not why he's getting that money. So he's corrupt in a totally different way.
Yeah, he's a special one. He's a special one. I don't know. I get exhausted about it.
It's exhausting. I hate even talking about it. People are mad at right now. Stop!
Are they hitting you?
I'm sure they are.
They're like, fucking Joe Rogan.
Enough. You don't know anything about politics. Which they're right. I should probably shut the fuck up. I should probably learn more and then get more upset and then talk more.
I used to joke about, I still do it from time to time, that I would want to be president, but when you see these dudes become president, they look like 1 month in, they look like they're like in a race they didn't train for.
Somebody should have a picture of Trump now.
I know. Well, he talked at CPAC this morning, and he was on the prompters, but I was just like, I don't know if it's the white balance on this video, but what's that?
So this
5K, man?
My friend Cameron Haynes, keep hammering 5K. The only race I've ever run, I ran a 5K. Ask me how many times I ran a train for it.
7.
0.
I thought it was going to be 0, but I thought you were going to fuck with me.
I ran the race. I didn't train at all. So that's the same thing. If you caught me at the end of that race, I was like, whoa.
Dead. Yeah.
That's hard to do.
You're like,
even if you're in shape.
It's a lot longer than I thought it was.
Well, it's more difficult to run 5K than it seems. It seems like I work out all the time. This is for pussies. I'll just go run it. No. I think if you think that you could be the president, like, I have amazing stamina, I have a winning mentality, winning temperament, once you get in there, man, that guy looks bewildered. That press conference that he did the other day where he's just going on and on about everything, holy shit, that was terrifying to people. I had friends that are conservatives that text me afterwards, go, he looks unstable. This is making me nervous. Like, well, there you go. Well, because you're Make America Great Again, you fucks.
Kellyanne Conway hasn't been on TV for a while, but some of the last ones, she was just looked like she was wrecked.
They got her in a bunker somewhere. They're feeding her Adderall and they're telling her what to say.
She's just like, I don't know if I could do this. I would probably collapse under it all.
Oh, for sure I would collapse.
I would decide everything on fucking internet polls. Like, you fucking run this thing.
Dude, first of all, I'd be drunk on TV all the time. I'd be smoking weed. I'd be like, we got to just burn it down. The whole system, burn it down. It would be like when they found Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now in the desert. He's talking about the snail going across the razor blade. That's what I'd be like.
There's a snail going across the razor blade.
I feel like it's really right now with everyone that's involved in it. It's a test of endurance.
Oh yeah.
right? It's who's going to last the longest, who's going to keep on fighting.
It's shaking. You know, we're having an earthquake, and the earthquake is going to fuck up all those shitty buildings. All the ones without the strong foundation, they're gonna be wrecked, and we're gonna have to condemn them and tear them down and start fresh. And see, I don't like it. I don't like how this is going. I would have hoped that we got a savior. I would have hoped that someone stepped in that was a really reasonable person, but I don't think a reasonable person even can get traction. I think our system is so fucked up that we almost might benefit from some crazy asshole coming in here and doing what he's doing.
Well, I don't think you get a normal person who, one, wants to be president and then gets propped up by all the people that are already in power. You don't get that person.
Couldn't agree more.
Right? It's like, oh, this person has baggage. Everyone at that fucking point has to have baggage.
Right, which is one of the more impressive things about Obama. Is that he was so measured, and it wasn't vindictive, and maybe behind the scenes he killed a few people. I don't know.
I mean, when you say few people go, well, what about drones though?
Oh yeah,
what about drones? Though,
I was exactly thinking that.
Yeah,
I mean, he certainly is responsible for that. They killed something like 80% civilians.
Oh, there's 80% of entire populations. I was like, what?
I think that was the most recent statistic. Find out
to see it.
Innocent deaths by drone by percentage. I really think it's super high. That's scary high.
Even you saying that sentence, it's horrifying that statistic exists, right? It's like, hey, can we just Google the horror? Google horrific things happening right now.
Just wedding parties. Just hellfire missiles on wedding parties.
That's the internet
Google
right
that.
now. It's us, everyone yelling about politics and cats.
What do you got, Jamie? What'd you say?
It's the top one that popped up, which...
Nearly 90% of people killed in recent drone strikes were not the target. Fuck.
This was 2015 October.
Jesus Christ.
But guys, they fixed it. They fixed it from then.
My fucking head hurts, man.
The Huffington Post put this article out, and everyone was like, you know what, let's chill. And then the world was happy.
My fucking head hurts when you read things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we live in, things are a bit chaotic, or are chaotic now, but we live in Disneyland compared to most of the world, and I think that's important for people to remember.
For sure. But the problem is those people that are over there in non-Disneyland, they're just like you or I. They just got a shitty roll of the dice. That's what's fucked. And that's what's fucked up about this whole refugee thing. Like this idea that somehow or another, if someone's a Muslim, you can keep them from coming into this country. Like, man, I know a lot of Muslims, and they're nice people. Like, you can't, just because someone believes wacky shit, okay, whether they're Moonies or whether they're Mormons, I know some really nice Mormons. They're fucking great people. If you said, should you get rid of them? I'd say, no, you don't listen to them. You don't really get a planet when you die.
Right.
You don't have to wear the magic underwear, but they're nice folks. I know people that believe nutty shit. One of my best friends believes that the fucking government is spraying things out of the back of planes. When you see those contrails in the sky, he thinks it's like, what does he call this? Strategic aerosol injection? It's an SAI program. Like, no, it's not. But I love them. There's a lot of people that believe some ridiculous shit, and they need the opportunity, just like all of us do, to have peace and prosperity, and to have the opportunity to take in more information that may make you reconsider your belief system.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to the immigration thing, there's people on two fronts, right? There's one as far as general immigration, people coming through legally from countries, and then there's also the refugee program, right? And so what I've seen is a lot of arguments of, okay, so you're saying that these people are displaced, they're having to go through all these horrible things. People are saying, why is that my problem? Is it because America is the land of dreams and we should offer that because we're great? Why should that? And then once again, not my argument, but why is that taking precedent over me, who's I went to college, things haven't worked out, my life's fucking in shambles. I have people yelling that I have white privilege all the time, and the fucking seems like the world's more and more against me every day. Why, if and in their head,
First
like
of
all these people are a risk.
Let me stop right there.
Yeah.
For that guy, I got 3 words.
What's
Go
that?
fuck yourself. Ugh. And then 4 words. Suck it up, pussy. Jesus Christ. You get people calling you have white privilege, you freaking out? You're in America, bitch. If things aren't going well, work harder, figure it out. You're a white guy in America. You're so lucky.
Right.
Are you finding shit to complain about?
But
yeah,
so
look, everybody has their own hand that they're dealt, right? And some people are in impoverished fucking coal miner communities in West Virginia, and some people are born in Marin County with a fucking silver spoon in their mouth. Granted, we're all aware of that. But if you don't think that your opportunities are far greater because you live in America than they are if you're a Syrian refugee coming over here wrapped up in a fucking tent, you're crazy. You're crazy. And one of the things that makes this place so fucking special is that it's the land of opportunity. As soon as you stop having it be the land of opportunity, you stop taking in those new people, you stop giving those people that opportunity, and then you make this place a different thing. You make this place this secluded, isolated, put the fence up, put the wall up, everybody in is in, everybody else could go fuck themselves. That's not what it is.
Right.
You're changing what it is. This is the land of opportunity. This is a country that was founded entirely by immigrants who killed the natives. But that's
Maybe that's what they're
we
scared
are.
of.
No. Well, there's certainly good and bad to
Right.
all forms of immigration, and there's certainly good and bad to cultural integration. Cultural integration is where things get really problematic, especially for women. For women and women that have dealt with all the horrific situations that have happened in all these European countries where Muslims have come in and the radical ones have wanted to enforce their ideas, the Sharia law ideas on the women in the area, and they see women walking around in miniskirts and all that stuff is a real problem. The integration of cultural norms and values into a Western society that has just a completely different idea of what's acceptable and not acceptable. That's going to take some fucking time.
Yeah.
And if I was in that area, I'd get the fuck out of Dodge. I would not want to be around if there's a culture war going on, while people are fighting and arguing over ideas that may or may not include your wife, your daughter, your mother. That's too dangerous.
So then you would have a lot of those same people that I talk about saying, well, why the fuck should I have to move because we're this thing?
You can't let that happen in America. That is a different thing. But that's the problem. You cannot let that happen in America. If you get people that are coming, you have to have a no tolerance policy to anyone that's giving anyone a hard time over accepted values in America, like the way women are allowed to dress or driving cars. What if you come over from Saudi Arabia and you want to kill all the women that are driving cars? Like what if you want to impart Sharia law on women that are committing adultery or doing any of the things that are just really, there's no law against a girl deciding to fuck 100 guys in America. If a girl decides to rent out a warehouse and go, hey, first 100 guys get to fuck me, come on in. Like in another country, you could be put to death for that. And
Well, there are women
that's
that
real.
there are women that are arrested that are sexually assaulted.
Yes.
When you look at
Yeah.
what sucks is it's not like that was one story.
No.
There are so many stories over the years, and it's horrifying.
Scary.
But so that's why I then argue, because even to the points that you're saying, there are people that are scared of that.
Well, there has to be some sort of a zero tolerance policy for subjecting other people to your ideas and beliefs in that way. But also, every culture evolves. I mean, Christians used to be a part of the Inquisition. I mean, they were torturing people, and they're getting people to confess to horrific crimes they never really did. They did all sorts of things to people that were non-believers, and that was a normal part of life in some parts of the world a long time ago.
Right.
We have to assume that kind of progress is not just isolated to Christians. It's not just something that one belief system can sort of embody that sort of evolution. That this can be something that we experience in a lot of different mindsets, a lot of different ideologies. And then the opportunity to educate those people in a place where they're free might be the only way that's ever going to change. In the echo chamber of the Middle East, where these people are growing up in these, and obviously you're talking about places with very few resources, really dangerous environments for everyone. If you're living in these incredibly impoverished Middle Eastern places where these people fleeing. I mean, you've seen the videos of Aleppo, you've seen the stuff in the news. I mean, anything's better than that.
Right.
Anything's better than being in a bomb zone where things are just going off left and right, and the suicide bombings and missiles and chaos and death and ISIS throwing people off the roof for being gay. I mean, it's just horrific. So those people that are living in that, it's almost like their life, it can't get any worse.
Right.
They're in hell. They're literally in an apocalypse right now. If you look at a Mel Gibson movie, look at any kind of crazy Mad Max movie, how is that any different than Syria right now?
Right.
I mean, it's really not. It's just we know that one of the reasons why we don't consider this the apocalypse right now. It's because it's not the apocalypse here in Woodland Hills.
Right.
You know? But it's the apocalypse in Syria. It's,
Right.
it's the apocalypse in there's pockets of the world where things are absolutely horrific. And those areas, we're scared. Those areas are going to come here and make us the apocalypse too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to the Disneyland thing. We're at Disneyland, and we're really pissed that some of the rides are closed, and we're in line, and we feel like other people are getting ahead. But it's not that. It is not. It doesn't compare. But I have a bleeding heart in some capacities when you see those things, and you're like, we have to help whoever we have to help. But my goal is to always understand the guy that doesn't want to have to fucking move out of his neighborhood because all these people came in and the culture changed, right? It's just taking into account his mindset where even you said all of a sudden you're worried about your daughter, your wife, that there are people that have that mindset. And I mean, and we're human beings. It's the easiest thing in the world to create an us versus them argument, especially if there's fear unto my family. I mean, if anyone that's you have fear for yourself, but anytime all of a sudden you have a family, it's next level.
Well, also I think people were worried about people coming over here and not integrating. They're coming over here and then they start these communities where they all use the same language, they all use the same, the same written language on their signs, and then they develop these like Chinatown type neighborhoods. Not disparaging Chinatown in any way, but that's just as an example of ethnic communities that sort of stay isolated.
Right.
Like there's places in Chinatown where you go and no one's speaking English.
Right.
They're just running around speaking Chinese and they can't speak English, but they figured out a way to integrate. There's also Latino communities in this country that are like that similarly as well. And I think people are worried about that, like that spreading. And they say that has actually happened in parts of Paris and it's happened in parts of Germany where these people have come over from other countries as refugees and they've established communities and then they enforce their laws. And that was something that Milo was going to do. He was going to do some sort of a march and he was going to do like some gay march through, I think it was Sweden. I think he was going to go through like the worst Muslim neighborhoods in Sweden, but they just decided it was far too
Sweden
dangerous.
got so much promo in the past week.
A lot of Sweden promo. And so they're in denial. They're like, no, we're fine. Hey, we haven't done anything. And then right after they said that, some horrific outbreak took place.
Like, by the way.
Whoops, got a little violence going on there now that you didn't used to have.
Right.
But this is the growing pains. Like, if you take people from a violent place and then you let them loose, like there was this one horrific story about this guy from Iraq that came over, some refugee, and he raped some boy in Germany, and his response they asked him why he did it. He's like, I hadn't seen my wife in 6 months and I was having a sexual emergency. Yeah, so, and
wow.
They're like, what? Like, there's things, actually, I don't think he was from Iraq. I think he was from Afghanistan. But there's things that go on in other parts of the world that become, I don't want to say the norm, but they do happen there. Well, where they don't happen here.
That's where I think it's important, and I feel like general people don't have the time where it's important to be as educated as possible, because if we're basing things off of the way things are generally becoming, or it seems like more and more, yes. But if you're basing stuff off of outliers, I think that's where things are crazy. Where you hear, someone that was here illegally, they keep talking about the same story over and over. It was someone here illegally. There was a murder. Right, and it's like the same story,
right?
And I want to see the bigger picture, because yes, that's fucking horrifying in a bubble. But what's the big thing? If it leans more towards holy shit, this is scary, then yeah.
Right.
But if you base something off of like with guns, right? If you base something off of one specific shooting that is like, if you look at like the body count, the guns involved specifically, if it's an outlier. If it's representative of a bigger problem, then you feel you go after the bigger problem if you actually want to have an effect that's not just superficial, or that's not just a big stance.
Well, we all want to be safe, and we all want our loved ones safe, and so do they. I mean, that's what I think is really important. And when they don't anymore, when people don't want to be safe or they don't want their loved ones safe, then we have to figure out why. Like what's going on that you're willing to strap your kid full of dynamite and have him walk into a mall and blow people up. Like, and now you think he's a holy martyr. I remember watching some documentary on suicide bombings, and they were raising these children to be suicide bombings, and they had these pictures of these kids, these holy images of these children with suicide vests on the wall that had already committed suicide. And there was a sign in Islamic that said, today's actually, Islamic's not a language. What am I talking about?
I was like, go with
Yeah, go with it. Yeah, well, in Arabic, excuse me. But it said, today's children are tomorrow's holy martyrs. And that was on the wall. And they were interviewing these people and trying to wrap their head around this and make sense of it. You know, when you've got situations like that, everyone should be scared, because then people embrace their ideology to the point where they're willing to let their own babies blow
Right.
themselves up. And so you got a real problem there, and that is as much of a problem as any kind of cult, any kind of mind control, any kind of. And if that's happening over here, yeah, that needs to be taken into consideration. But how many people are doing that? What is the percentage? How many people aren't doing that? How many people are productive, kind, reasonable people that are stuck in a really shitty place? And isn't that supposed to be what America's about? So you can't just say there's a small percentage of people that are doing horrific shit, so now we can't let anybody that looks like them in, because that gets crazy, and that
Right.
isolates us from the whole rest of the world too. But it ain't easy, man, and it's not an easy problem to solve, and I'm certainly not the fucking guy to do it.
Right. Ditto.
Yeah.
No, because the argument automatically becomes, but what if my family?
Right, and then
Right, and
how
then-
do you secure people? How do you make things secure? I don't know. Good question.
Well, there's
how
no,
do you
there's
screen
no
them?
such thing as
I
safety.
don't know.
There's no such thing as safety. Before there
Ultimate
were
safety, right? But you can make things more safe.
you can make things somewhat safe, but I mean, it's a dark thing to think about. But before there were even more of these shootings that happened, you look at why do you have to blow up a plane, or why do you have to crash a plane if you can just get the people in line, right? If you go to a mall, why, like, there are people that are just there's soft targets everywhere. No one's ever going to be fully safe unless it's under like some crazy like Big Brother control.
And that's not safe.
And I don't want that.
Right,
I
and
don't
that's
want
not
that.
safe either, because there'll be consequences for
Right.
going against Big Brother.
So it's like, for me, when I talk about these things, it's a we're fucked, but in what way are we going to be fucked situation? And I know
damn
that
it,
can be
Phil.
dark. I know, but it is dark. It's disappointing. There's no such thing as ultimate safety, right?
No.
I think I understand the argument of gun-free zones create targets, but there are targets everywhere.
Well, here's the real question: how do you make the rest of the world, like, if you were some sort of a really benevolent person who is just looking to do the best job of managing this world and making all the places that are in disarray and these horrific war zones and bringing them up. How do you ever do that? Like, how do you
I
ever
don't think it's
even the
possible.
world out?
No, I mean,
ever? It's not possible.
We need aliens to come together. That's the only time humanity works out is
Right.
when we have a common enemy. But the problem is we're always our own common enemy.
But is that inevitable? I mean, at one point in time, people were way worse, right? At one point in time,
Right.
there was, like, one of the things that really freaked me out was when they started finding all these scraping marks on the inside of Neanderthal heads that indicated that people were eating the Neanderthal brains. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Like, and then there was an article recently about cannibalism, about how frequent cannibalism occurred back in the day. And it was, I mean,
Good
obviously
reading.
that's not going on anymore, right? Okay.
Is that the bar?
Far
We're
less
like-
cannibalism than ever before.
I think if that's the bar, we're fucked. We're like, we're not eating each other. I mean, say what you will. We're not eating each other.
Well, it used to be that you couldn't just show up in a new town, right? You couldn't just pull your boat up, into some dock somewhere and get out and do some tourist shopping. Because if you pulled your boat up, that meant you were probably a bunch of rapists and murderers from some other place. You're coming over with swords and bows and arrows and shooting everybody and killing them,
Right.
taking all the gold. Well, that's not the case anymore. So things are much more reasonable in terms of foreign travel, in terms of international relations. Things are much more reasonable. You got to think that if it continues to go in that direction, we'll have a better world for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. But what steps have to be taken to make sure that the rest of the world's horrific conditions don't spill over to America? Well, isn't one of the best ways to take those people out of those horrific conditions and introduce them to this beautiful free concept, this concept of self-government, this unique place where there isn't a caste system, where you can, if you play your cards right and you're fortunate and you get the right breaks and put in the right amount of work, you literally can go from being a poor person to being a very wealthy person. You can go from being unsuccessful with no job and no hope to being very successful. and happy. It's possible here, and it's one of the few places in the world where you can build yourself up like that. And I think that is an amazing opportunity that probably didn't exist in history.
I think I'm too much of a cynic to think that the idea of all of us coming together on a positive idea will bring us all together. I 100% think it has to be a bad thing that unites us, right?
Like a meteor impact or some shit.
Meteor impact, fake that aliens are coming, so we all have to come together, trick everyone.
Fake them?
Well, aliens that want to kill us in like the next 10 years, right? Rather than at some point in the eventual time.
I don't think the word 10 years is not good because people are go, we'll deal with it in 9.
They just want to push it off.
Yeah, they just go fucking crazy. The bottom line is, bro, when the aliens get here, they're gonna fucking kill us. So just do all your raping while you can.
I think they're gonna be on my side. They're gonna call you an alien apologist.
Oh.
They'll be like, oh, he's an alien apologist. He doesn't get Joe Rogan disconnected from the people.
Yeah, man, he's up there in his fucking house with a TV and he doesn't know.
He doesn't give a shit about those aliens. He said he did. Talked about
He's got
infinity.
his internet connection. He gets to drive where he wants. He's got his own car.
Who's jealous of the internet connection? He's fucking
People in Africa
Oh,
living in a grass hut.
don't worry, Zuckerberg's fixing it.
Is he?
I don't know.
Supposedly, right? Didn't one of those things
Him and
blow
Bill
up?
Gates.
It blew up, right? They're spending a ton of money on a satellite. It was one of the SpaceX
really?
ones that blew up. Yeah, that was supposed to be.
Oh, I didn't see that.
The one big one that recently blew up was to provide satellite internet access to impoverished parts of Africa.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think the more connected it is, it's a good thing. But yeah, it has to be a bad thing. It has to be a bad thing that unites us, of where we become the we, or the us versus the them, the other. But the problem is, there's, whether it be nationalism or religion or fucking anything, there's so many things that within our own create an easy us versus them mentality. And I mean, I'm a personal believer in that eventually we're just gonna kill ourselves.
That's what you think?
Yeah.
God damn, Philly.
I think it's just gonna happen. I don't want it to happen. I'm not like, let's hurry things
But
up.
it's safer now than it's ever been before. Statistically speaking, today is the safest time ever to be alive. Right?
I'm talking about on a grand scale.
But this is a grand scale. When you're talking about statistically speaking, that's the grand scale.
I'm talking about like the next big thing to happen, as far as whether it be all-out war, not the things that are happening in our streets right now.
Goddamn doom and gloomer! Look at you.
I'm planning for 2024. It's going to be make Earth great again. That's going to be mega.
Were you? How old are you?
31.
So you were young when 9/11 happened.
Yes, I was in my classroom. They like wheeled in the TV.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What grade were? Do you remember?
I want to say I was in middle. Well, no, I think it might have been my first year of high school. I moved around. I'm trying to think. I'm having a hard time placing it, but I remember I was in class. From my memory, the problem with memory is like I feel like you maybe slightly change it.
100%.
But from my understanding or my memory, they wheeled the TV in. It was after the first tower got hit, and then I'm pretty sure we watched the second tower get hit live. I think that's what happened.
Wow.
And that was just, and in my head, it was a mix of horror to then also them, because they cut to certain shots, because they're the shots that you remember of people running away from the debris, but then there was also shots of people just looking at it, and then some people just like walking at a steady pace before the second one hit. And I was like, wow, like nothing. For a second, when I looked at the people that were there before you saw like the people running in to help people, I thought, nothing can destroy us. Like that was kind of my mindset of this horrible thing just happened, and it was before the second one hit. So it was like, what's happening? But I mean, I think that's a good example too. I don't want that to ever happen again in a small or a big scale. But do you remember how united everyone was?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it was. The problem is we somehow took that situation and then made everything horrible. But it was an us, like there was a united us. It was American.
Well, it wasn't just united us. It was also the rest of the world was sympathetic to our plight. And there was a headline in some paper in Paris that said we're all Americans today. That would never happen now, not in a million years. If the same exact thing happened, they would be like, you deserve it. Why are you in Iraq? Why are you in Afghanistan? It wouldn't be we're all Americans, because back then we hadn't invaded Iraq, we hadn't invaded Afghanistan, and there was so much more sympathy just 16 years ago.
Well, even closer. I mean, when Charlie Hebdo, right, they got hit. It was,
Yeah.
Je suis Charlie. Now, when something happens, it's like, well, look at what's happening there. Do we
Yeah.
want more? Do we want that here?
Right.
So there's definitely
Like that death metal thing where they gunned down all those people at that
Right,
concert. Yeah.
right. Or-
also in Paris.
yeah.
The Lyon, France, the truck driver that drove over
Through
everybody.
the people, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot less of we are,
Yeah.
right? It's more of look what's happening, and it's definitely more fear based rather than if we're just united and we stand against this.
Yeah.
There still is that. It's just not as big.
Well, I was in New York right after September 11th. It wasn't very long afterwards. And I remember it was amazing how friendly everybody was. It was just a different feel.
Mm-hmm.
People were shook, and their response in recovery to that was people were smarter or not smarter, kinder. And
Yeah.
they were smiling more. And it was a different feel. There was more camaraderie and massive respect to first responders.
Yes.
Massive respect to police and fire department. There was a different feeling in how people felt about them. Instead of being the oppressors, they became the saviors. And not firemen. I mean, nobody ever thinks of the firemen as the oppressors.
Firemen.
Well, there was a thing in the riots, after the riots in L.A., where they were attacking firemen. Like they were,
Really?
it was horrible. They were shooting at them. It was a thing where people just decided that the man, whoever the man is, needed to go down, whether it was fire department or police, and they were shooting at cops. And
That's insanity.
well, they were burning buildings down
Yeah.
that had nothing to do with the riots. And I'm sure you saw there was a piece on these Korean business owners in Koreatown. They were invaded during the riots because they're not the best. The proximity to where all the South Central shit was going down post Rodney King, and these people were on the rooftops just trying to defend their stores and trying to stop looters from taking away everything they earned and everything they worked for their whole lives. And those moments when things get chaotic, they do open up the door for people to reconsider how fortunate we are when things aren't chaotic.
Right. I think that's the very unfortunate thing. That we only open up open ourselves up after something horrible.
Yeah.
And because I think that we see horrible thing after horrible thing, we slowly get further and further away from being able to unite just because it's, at least in our 24/7 news cycle, it seems like that's just the world we live in, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, there's scary shit, man. Hopefully we can keep that away from us.
Well, and again, it goes back to what we were talking about really early on. I just honestly think we're taking in too much data. Like your life and my life should really revolve around the people that we're in contact with, the people that we communicate with, and our immediate surroundings. And our immediate surroundings, we both work in the same area, is really pleasant.
Yeah.
It's really fine. And the folks we run into, for the most part, like 99.9% of them, are very pleasant. And hi, how you doing? What's up? How are you? Everything's good, And that's really how we're supposed to be thinking about the world. This is our world, but now our world is extended to include Pakistan and North Korea and what is happening here and what's happening there. Did you hear that Kim Jong-un's half-brother was killed with some toxic paint or something? Like, fuck, man. Why do I have to think about that guy? I don't know that guy. There's too many people. There's too much. And that can really give you this really bizarre, twisted sense of the state of the world. That if you just go out now and look out, like Bill Hicks used to have a joke about that, about watching CNN, and it was all about because Jane Fonda wouldn't fuck Ted Turner. This was back when that you'd go outside and, they'd be like, today on the news, AIDS, death, murder, pit bulls, guns, stabbings. And you go outside, you hear birds chirping. Where the fuck's all this happening?
Yeah, I forget what I was listening to, but it was a comparison to when people are thinking about the world, when they're thinking about the country. All of that is usually far different when they talk about their local community, because in our local community we're like, oh, things are a lot of people think things are good. Obviously, there are places where bad shit's happening, but when we look at our own community, we're like, that's great, and I do think that's a place where we start. Right? Make
for sure.
Make the local good and try and expand from there. Because when you look out and you look at specifically like Chicago as the state of the United States, that's not what it is. It's scary there.
South Side.
I mean,
most of Chicago is actually really nice.
Yeah. Right. Well, so once again, you have to look at specific places, but like when Donald Trump's talking about Chicago, this is stuff that I've been talking on my show like 2 years. I had segments almost every Monday where it was like, this is how many people died in Chicago.
Yeah.
And it's crazy numbers. But then you look close and you're just like, oh, things are good. And I think that's where everyone needs to start. Start locally and then kind of expand from there.
To get that local to somehow or another make its way into Chicago.
Yeah, because I mean, most people, you have your small little group. You're in a great position where you get to talk to hundreds of thousands, millions of people. Same for me, and we're like in this exceptional, amazing position that I feel like I'm so scared to do the wrong thing. But
how are you scared to do the wrong thing?
I don't want to mislead people. That's what I mean. In the sense of like when I do my show, it's just like I have a whole team for full production and stuff like that. But I'm researching it because it's my name on the line, and I want to. Really, in the past year and a half, just focusing like, how do we get to the truth? I'm not infallible. There are going to be mistakes and stuff along the way. But how can I try and I get 10 minutes to 20 minutes of someone's life, right? And that's huge, especially with how much information people are getting. And people hold on to shit that they see in a fucking 2-second glimmer of a tweet. So I want to make sure that I'm trying in that way to make my community, which happens to be a little larger than your everyday Joe, good. Like a good, smart place where we don't have to agree, but we're working on it together.
Well, that's great. You're doing the right thing, man. It's very admirable. I think what we're talking about with Chicago and Syria and all these other things is just you're dealing with the data from 7 billion people, and that is unfathomable.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible to handle. And so that's why take a look, then look, like you're saying, around you and start from there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to, at some point, just be completely wrong.
And I think it's probably a good idea for all of us, you and I included, to filter out some of the data that we're taking in. It's just too much. At this point in time, you can just be inundated with horrific news all day long if you so choose to.
Oh, yeah.
And
there are those rabbit holes.
You could fucking...
Sometimes it's just there.
Alex Jones until your fucking head explodes. I mean, you really could. You can go down to all the dark Pizzagate rabbit holes until you can't take it anymore. It's just... You can find the worst parts of the world, the worst pockets of terrorism, the worst, and you just absorb yourself in that data, and then you will be convinced that's the life, that is the world.
But I think that's why people have to fight a good fight, right? Not to be like, oh, we're heroes.
Yeah.
But I think that's why you have to have people that throw themselves out there that are going to get steamrolled by people that oppose on that specific day, that viewpoint. But you have to have those people, because otherwise... just the people that have that time, that want to see the world just fucking implode, right? They're the people there are a lot of people that have that time. So we have to, I think, be dedicated to have a conversation.
And this is the last thing I want to ask you about, because, and this might come off as being silly, but I think there might be some validity to it. Do you think that this ability that you have and that I have and all the people that come on this podcast or any podcast have, this new ability to express ideas and communicate, do you think that is having an effect on the way people view the world? And that this open form of communication where, you and I've never been trained in the media. Have you? Have you been trained? Has anybody told you how to do this? No, right?
No.
But you and I, two normal people, we can communicate to millions of people having this conversation. And then millions of people will talk to their friends and express their own opinions, whether they agree, disagree, or maybe have some other things to add to it. They express that to their friends at work and their friends, at home. And these dialogues take on a life of their own. And they these ideas that we're expressing and that other people are expressing at work or at play, they're more potent now, and they spread faster now than they ever have before. And I think there's an evolution of ideas that's taking place now, good and bad. That's where all the white privilege shit comes from, and all the, all the gender politics and all the weirdness. All of it comes from these turbocharged ideas, these nuclear ideas now, where ideas spread to the point where words become taboo and use the wrong gender pronoun when you're talking about a trans person and you're the worst human ever, and all these new things that are existing. And I think these new things are because dialogue and information is just, it has a different weight to it now. It's almost like the gravity is shifted on it.
I think a lot of the reason why we have our positions and other people do is because it is that it is a dialogue. It is in a weird way an extended friend group, right? So it's friends talking about things. That's where people have, I think, the best conversations as far as where we grow, right? If I mean, they constantly come out with numbers of, you know, the trust in media, right? Of just like they have an agenda, but if it's just people talking, right? Just guys talking, that you don't feel like Joe's got this agenda that he wants to just shove down everyone's throat. There are going to be people that say that, but I think that's good. It is. There's always going to be shit that then becomes this like confirmation bias. I only deal with the friends that confirm what I think, but I think it's a very good thing. It's where it's the more human way to take in information and form an opinion and grow from it. I think.
And that opinion's going to shift, too, and move around.
I hope it does, because when people look back and they're like, this person flip-flopped, that person fucking grew, hopefully. I mean, it could be completely calculated on pandering,
or
blah,
got
blah, blah.
new data, or changed who they are. I mean, you know, that flip-flopping thing is so silly.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this person has a different... Yes, hopefully you can have a different opinion, that you're not locked into something. Yeah. And so I think that everyone needs to focus on it. With like the not ever going to school for this sort of thing. I've never taken a journalism class. I've talked about it in a video. I focus on, I call it like the liquor method, right? I listen, I question, I research, and I refute. Right? So I take in as many sources as I can, whether it be... the Huffington Post and CNN or Fox News, Breitbart, the Donald, anything. I want to see where everyone's coming from, right? Then I start throwing out questions. You know, where does this come from? What do they say? Go down that rabbit hole with research, and then I'm armed with information. That's why I think whether you have a Milo or you have fucking anybody, let people talk so you can learn, because information's ammo. Right? Information's something that you can take in, understand, but if it's a flawed argument, even if it's opinion-based, if it's a flawed argument, then you can use it. And then, and maybe it's not a flawed argument, you fucking learned something, right? Maybe you thought you were right, you were wrong. That's cool. That's fine. Like, flip-flop, have a different opinion. So I'm for it all day. I think you got to grow. I think there are people that wake up in the morning and want to fucking burn the world, but I refuse to believe that that's the majority, and I'm going to start trying to deal with people I think that are sensible, that at the very least think they're sensible, weed out the ones that really aren't, once tested, and just fucking go.
I'm 100% with you, and I really like what you're doing, because I think you're a very reasonable guy.
Thank you.
I think you're very well thought out, and when you consider things like the most recent Milo video, you're being very fair, and I think the world needs more of that. Reasonable and fair. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being reasonable and fair. That's it for the week, you motherfuckers. Thanks for tuning in. Love you guys. See you next week. Bye.
Woo. That's fun.